moved in, now not so much. I find myself searching outside of the city limits looking for affordable housing, and I find myself searching out of state. Now, what are the implications of that? I'm running out of time, so I'll wrap this up. I implore you to, you said take my time? I can take my time? Okay, well then, how many productive, intelligent citizens are having to leave the city in order to afford to live? How much sense does that make? Is it the intention to have a city full of millionaires, and if so, what does that do to the service economy and small businesses in the area? I'm here to appeal to your humanity, your compassion, and your logic. I'm here to challenge what you may believe about people who can't afford the rising rental rates.
Your time has expired.
Okay, thank you. Advocating for rent control and rent regulation. Thank you so much.
Next is Jamal Carlos, who has yielded time to Patricia Creighton. So we will now move to former Representative Abel Mabel Thomas. I'd like to come forward, and I'd like to also recognize my colleague, Ms. Waits.
Sure. I just want to take this moment to recognize my former colleague from the Georgia General Assembly. We had the privilege of serving together in the Georgia House of Representatives, and she also served in this illustrious body as the Council Post 1 representative. So it's a pleasure to see you before us today. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much, colleague. Dawn Antoine yields her 2 minutes. Is that cool?
Yes, we have you for 4 minutes.
Okay, very good. So first, giving honor to God, who's the leader of my life. It's an honor to be here before this distinguished body that I had the opportunity to serve in. I will say that I very closely follow politics, and I do see that there is forward movement as it relates to this particular body. I'm very impressed with some of the young people that have come on, the new people that have come on, based upon the enthusiasm that I see they're doing. One thing I will give you just a little small tip. But the main thing about service is service, which means that people call you, you really do have to call people back. Because there are some people that I brought with me today. Pastor Eggerton, she has her own time, and she will speak about it. She's, Byron, you know, she's at 759, Joseph B. Boone, the church, the Truth Deliverance Church, and they've moved from that location, but she's in a new location and has some opportunities as it relates to affordable housing that she would like to talk to Jason Winston about, but she did want me to mention her being in our neighborhood as well. Housing on the west side it's been spoken by the young lady, is not affordable, even though the West Side Future Fund controls the majority of the housing in our area, but it's still not affordable housing. I agree with the young lady that came up with the T-shirt said, "Nope, not today." She's from the West Side. And also I came today because of the issue as it relates to rent control. Now, me and Keisha understand that rent control is governed by the state, but unless there's an enthusiastic commitment by the city council to put their influence in and working with some other counties throughout the municipal systems, we won't have a chance to get rent control without a big push. So I think that's important as well. I also want to give you a little bit of update on English Avenue Elementary School. I spoke to most of all the older people that were here about a special use permit for English Avenue. They wanted to put a venue into English Avenue that would be to 3 a.m. in the morning. But with organizing, we were able to get it to be 12 o'clock, midnight, which is too late for any community or resident to be able to not have sleep, no quality of life, and all the trash and everything that goes with a venue like that in a residential area. Just because we are a working class community does not mean that we need to put up with a lot of craziness that we've been put up with in our West Side communities, whether it's the big old dome in the Vine City area. So what they're doing is trying to make our area into a sort of like a destination point for entertainment. We got a request from T.I. and some of his other partners to put a liquor license in, and now they want to have, not only want to have a trap museum. Now they want to have a trap cafe to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. So I'm here to tell you that we respect the city council because I know this body. We respect your service, but you got to do more constituent work. People should not call and not get a call back. The other thing I want to say is public safety. And I will say that Andre Dickens and the Chief Bryant have been helpful. We have a problem, I want to put it on the record, at 348, 342, 348, 342, James P. Brawley, and the liquor store, which is 775 Joseph B. Boone. 2 weeks ago, a shooting of the person that works at the liquor store and a person, both of them lying on the ground in the neighborhood with tape all around. Now, most of the time, I did my research, and Byron's office helped me. We was able to look at the type of, how many police calls have been to these particular areas. And most of the liquor store had been cars being stolen, but finally there's some documentation as far as the shooting at that location. But between the process of 348 and 342, 348 used to start at about 12 o'clock in the noon, and they would go to about 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning, shaking, misogynist music, drug dealing, everything you can think about, drive-by shootings, everything you can think about. Well, I will say that I made a call and was able to, after many calls and many MPU meetings, and many neighborhood association meetings, was able to get 348 shut down. But guess what? 348 figured that since 342 figured, since 348 is shut down, maybe they should start. So now 342 is trying to start to be the same thing that 348 was. So I'm telling you, it's out of control. Liquor license out of control. Violence out of control. On the west side of Atlanta, no housing. Homeless out of control. Homeless don't have no services. They're unhoused, but they need wraparound services. You know, we can talk about it, but somebody got to be bad about it. The bottom line of this story is that I appreciate those who are doing the hard work, because it's hard work. But I also would like to say that there's more to be done, and people look up to the city council because they feel they have a hands-on approach to it. Please help these constituents, and please stand in the space of affordable housing for all. Thank you. I am Abel Mabel Thomas.
Thank you. Next up is Janice Rawls, who's yielding time to Bishop Eggerton. So we'll move to Zachary Murray.
Good afternoon. Thanks to the members of the council for the time to speak. I am Zachary Murray. I'm a homeowner, landlord, and chair of the Lakewood Heights Community Association. In Lakewood Heights, we're experiencing a lot of gun violence, but what's worse in Lakewood Heights is the violence of poverty and displacement and the violence of evictions. It's not a week that goes by that one of our neighbors isn't evicted. This primarily impacts black women, children, and elders. If you care about black women, children, and elders, you have to act now. There are policies you can do today. Our community is routinely ignored, but the social and cultural fabric of our community is being torn apart, and the inaction of council is unconscionable. As a small landlord, I'm here today to stand in solidarity with the Housing Justice League and their Tenant Bill of Rights. There are many of us who support that kind of thing. We need rent control now. We need you to fight like hell for it, but there are things you can do today. Use the ARPA funds to do like other cities and acquire properties where we can house the homeless immediately. Make use of the Atlanta Housing Authority land so that we can build housing for those who need it most. Ensure that the residents of Forest Cove, who are my neighbors, are not disappeared like you've been doing for decades to low-income people in the city. Enact a right to counsel. You can do that today. Ban evictions that are used to allow properties to be converted to short-term rentals, just like my next-door neighbors who were evicted during a tornado warning so that the property could be converted into an Airbnb. You can do these things now. Protect our most vulnerable people. 1% of city-funded housing properties in the city are being built for folks at or below 30% AMI. That's unconscionable. It's unacceptable. The data that the city put forward on the Housing Authority tracker is distorted. I saw them change it. It's a lie. Public land policy needs to be enacted now, which ensures that all public land is prioritized for affordable housing and public benefit, not for profit, not for developers. Ensure that the APS stops flipping school properties for $400,000 to their favorite developer friend. One other thing I want to touch on while I have time is universal youth employment now. This exists in Washington, D.C. It exists in Baltimore, Maryland. You can ensure with maybe $10 million a year that every youth who have to support their families with rent or to support their families with food can have a job. This can be done through APS. This can be done through the workforce development funds, but you're sitting on your hands. We need action now. There are small landlords who do support rent control, who do support the tenant rights. Listen to us and ensure that our neighbors are not being kicked out because they built the city and they deserve to remain here, not in Douglas County, not in Clayton County. They deserve to be here, and you have the chance to do it now with 265 residents at Forest Cove, and if you don't, we are watching. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Gabby Williamson.
Hello, and thank you all for giving us this time to speak. Thank you all for your time. My name is Gabby Williamson. It's kind of hard to follow some of the people who've spoken here today. I work at a company called Vacasa. We manage short-term rental properties. I've lived in the metro Atlanta area for over 20 years. I moved here not with the intention of staying in the area, but I fell in love with the community and I stuck around. I changed careers earlier this year. In January, I was hired by Vacasa along with a few other local Atlanta people. So I just wanted to come today and speak because we have been trying to onboard properties. There are homeowners who have properties in Atlanta that they have been using as short-term rentals, and they're confused with the process that's involved with the application process itself. The reason it was so important for me to come here today was because a lot of those people aren't here to speak for themselves, and they've shared that information with us, so I wanted to relay that information to you all. The two main concerns that they've expressed to us are, first, they're finding the whole process confusing. They go to fill out the documents. They're not sure how to complete it. As someone mentioned earlier, there's a form they have to have notarized, and they have to send letters to their neighbors saying they're planning to rent out their primary residence, whether or not they're planning to actually do that. And that's confusing to the homeowners that we've spoken to. The other concern that they've shared with us is, those are the two main concerns, actually, just that the process is confusing to them, and they don't understand why they're being required to list their primary residence if they have no intentions of actually renting it out. So thank you all for your time.
Councilman Overstreet.
So you say you're with Vacasa?
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is around the fact that you want to call this a short-term rental. Is this a short-term rental, or is it, if it's not their primary resident, then it's not considered a short-term rental? You understand that part, right?
Well, the way that we view short-term rentals is less than 30 days. So for example, if you go on vacation somewhere and you're renting a property for a week, that's a short-term rental.
It has to be your
Councilman
primary.
Overstreet, I just want to remind you this is public comment. I don't want us to get into legislation. We'll have a chance to do that on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. That's true. So I'm going to need to speak with you because there is a difference in what you're saying and our legislation. So I'd like to speak to you about that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is Alice Atkins.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am an 84-year-old disabled senior citizen, and I'm here in regards to People TV. There's not too much on TV now for people my age other than People TV, and People TV have been more helpful for us that are poor than they've ever been. And I wrote a letter to our mayor in regards to People TV being taken off the air, and I understand that the city is responsible for People TV's bill. We need this service, and this service is helpful to me and to most people that are my age. Ms. Creighton has helped me many times in regards to my high taxes, and I won't go into that because it hurts to talk about it when you can't afford them. And I'm here asking for you to help us get People TV back on. so that we can have something interesting to look at. And I wrote a letter to our mayor, and I haven't heard from him, but I'm hoping that you will give us an opportunity to continue to turn us back on to People TV. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day.
Thank you. Next up, Bishop Eggerton. You have time yielded to you, so you will have a total of 4 minutes.
Thank you, sir. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you. As you can hear, I have an accent, and I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Praise God. I thank God for the opportunity to serve the people of Atlanta as a minister, as a pastor, as a person. I have worked in Atlanta doing property management for years, and thereafter I became a minister pastoring. I pastored in Atlanta for 25 years and some. And at the time that I was pastoring, I also housed the homeless women with children. And we was at 262 James P. Briley, and we moved from there to 759 Simpson, where the church was, and we also have some people in the church, in the fellowship hall, when, I know a lot of you remember when Katrina was. We housed some of the people that was on the street from Katrina in our fellowship hall. We feed, we take care of the community, and we also rent a house across from Abel Mabel, where we house women and children. And we work with Mother Mamie Moore with affordable housing. And I'm before you today to ask, for some kind of direction. I'm no longer at 759 Joseph E. Bone. We moved and we came together with Apostle James Pothrow on 502 McWilliams, where we have 7 acres of land the church is on, and we have 2 acres that he's willing to allow us to build affordable housing. And we are looking for whatever assistance, whatever help, whatever way you can point us to where we can do that for the people that is on the street, people with children, women with children, and we also have help is some people that been in the service, come on from off the street. We want to be able to do what we were doing on the West End, where we are now. That is still part of Atlanta. So I came before you for any assistance, any direction that you can point us to. And I have some paper that I put together for affordable housing. I believe is Councilman Jason Winston, that you are in our district. I have some paperwork for you, sir, for any way that you can assist us. And we do invite you to come and meet us in person. We would love to have you, and our apostle would love to have you. And I have the experience of working in the apartment, and we would like to be able to counsel the people, because we have a lot of people that have mental illness, and I have worked with them, and I want to be able to assist them even when they come into the housing, to give them some sense of value back into their self, and to help them come back to the community where they can be of help to the community, not a problem to the community, but a help to the community. So whatever way you can help us to be able to do that with the 2 acres that we have, whatever direction you can point us to, we will appreciate your help. And we are ready to do it whenever you are. And I thank Abel Mabel for all the help she had given us. She knows the work that we have put in English Avenue. We have worked there for 25 years with public housing. We just one house, but we house a whole lot. Living room with bedroom. You do what you had to do to help. I take women out of the bushes. They had the babies and and the clothing in the bushes. I take the clothes from the bushes and I walk them into the house. And I housed them there and fed them, helped them to get a job, and helped them to get an apartment. And my time is over?
Yes.
Well, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I give you this paper, please, sir? I can bring it to you? Thank you, sir. And thank you for your time. My card.
Next, we'll have Patricia Creighton. You have been yielded time by a number of folks, so you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Greetings, Council. My name is Patricia Creighton. I want to say especially greetings to Mary Norwood. Good to see you back again. My name is Patricia Creighton. I'm General Manager at People TV since 2016. I'm a producer at People TV since 1987. I started there with Hosea Williams. People TV has served as the public access television station for the city of Atlanta for over 35 years. 35 years as a board of commission with the city of Atlanta. People TV is a 501c3 nonprofit. We are located at 190 14th Street, Northwest Atlanta. We have over 8,000 square feet of space, a fully equipped TV studio with 20 feet ceilings, 3 high-definition cameras, updated live streaming equipment with an updated playlist app that has improved programming, a new switcher that has remote capacity. We installed a new 16-channel audio board and a new audio cable with XLR cables. We have a new look, a fresh new green room, restocked prop room, and newly remodeled rental space. Our editing suite is still down at the moment, but we are working on getting it up and running as soon as possible. People TV has a channel on Roku. We have a new underwriting agreement that was put up in place by a lawyer, and we also have a grant searcher. We are still live streaming, and we have the Roku channel. People TV is the only TV station channel that you can actually pick up the telephone and call and make comments to our live programming. That's how we got to know Ms. Akins. People TV has been serving Channel 24 with programming without a contract since 2013. Negotiations for a new agreement started July 2020. In March 2021, finally, a new negotiated contract with the City of Atlanta was put in place. It felt good to have a contract. We were on a solid foundation and legal. 1 year later, we were wrongfully taken off the air, March the 11th of this year, and the contract canceled without a reason. This was done by Ms. Lanice Harris, Howard Shook on the Utilities Committee, Mr. Wan, also on the Utilities Committee. I understand has something to do with it. If that's not true, Mr. Shook and Mr. Wan, I apologize, but I believe it is. Ms. Harris actually led me to believe she was working with People TV by sending Mr. Dennis over to inventory our equipment. He actually told me that she was going to work with us and upgrade People TV. That was a smoke screen. All Mr. Dennis did was took pictures of our old equipment, things that wasn't working, so he can make that presentation to the Utilities Committee on March the 1st of this year that made us look real bad. Now, I need to know today, Ms. Harris said this is a legal matter. If it is, I need to know who the lawyer is that's handling this case. I also need to know if this legal matter, who are the lawyers and what are they saying regarding the infraction against the franchise agreement with Comcast Cable? That's something that's serious. The franchise agreement with Comcast Cable bring millions of dollars into the city of Atlanta. It is at jeopardy now because Ms. Harris do not have a studio, equipment, facility to run a public access channel. We had producers come down here last Monday asking where could they put their program on and what was going on. Ms. Harris called the police on them. That's not the way you handle business. So what's the difference between Ms. Harris and not having the facility? Now she's playing the same thing has been playing for the last 30 days. In that franchise agreement, it says 8 hours of new programming is supposed to be played every week. That has not happened. Ms. Harris is even advertising with Agnes Scott College. There is no advertising supposed to be done on public access television. So those are infractions that are happening now and put us in a state of losing that franchise agreement. What's the difference between now and 2017 when the RFP was wrongfully given to Ms. D. Jones, and she too was not able to fulfill the requirements of the RFP? It was given back to People TV. That's right. In that RFP, it stated that $75,000 was set aside for new equipment. We never got it. That's right. So now, when Ms. Harris made us look so bad saying we were outdated with equipment, that's the reason why. Give us what we're due, and we can make better. From my understanding, the mayor signed an agreement to take People TV off the air. I can't believe that. I've asked for the agreement. I want to see it. Nobody can produce it. So what's really going on? Who's really running this?
Thank you.
I am to understand that the utilities committees need copies of the franchise agreement and the agreement that was put together with People TV. If that's true, I would like to definitely make sure you have it. Now, what I want is for People TV to go back on the air just like she took it off. It's not hard, and it don't take long. Flip a switch and put us back on the air. But actually, Mr. Shipman, I'm asking you for a work session. Now is the time for action. Yes. Talking has been done here and there between different people saying different things. I need to see something done. Now, the people are waiting. The people want People TV back on the air. It's just that simple. They've been calling you. They've been writing letters. So you know that the need is out there and they want People TV back. A lot of the council people have used People TV to get elected. Oh, yeah. And just like now, even though we got 3 years before a new election come up for council, and they will be asking you for their vote. So what are they going to give us? I've heard people here talking about homelessness. I've taken their names, so we're going to do some shows on this. We're going to continue to let Serona explain what's going on with transgenders in this city of Atlanta. We're going to let Leslie Winggood talk about housing. We're going to go to the NPUs and understand what's going on in the community. We're going to talk with people that's afraid to come out of their house. I'm afraid in mine. Truth be told, I hear gunshots every night. Every night. I live on Westlake Avenue. There is shooting all the time. My granddaughter was just involved with a killing at Atlantic Station. They tried to rob her. It was awful. Anyway, Shipman, please contact me for a work session. I appreciate you guys, and I know you understand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Ms. Creighton, I want to second you, and I want to ask for a public work session for People TV. So my office will be working on, I know you just asked President Shipman to do it, but we want to be a part of the public work session for People TV. I think we need to be doing that immediately. I think that the mayor's office needs to be front and center on this. I think that the folks that they need to be front and center because they can lead. Right now we need him to lead this issue for us. And so I'm going to defer to the mayor's office, but we need a public work session for you all right over here in City Council ASAP. In 2 weeks, according to my colleague, in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Next, we have Della Brooks, who yielded time, Rockman Rex, who yielded time, Robin Morgan, who yielded time. So we'll now move to Desiree Kalin.
Good afternoon, City Councilman.
Sorry, and you have 4 minutes. My apologies.
Oh, yes,
you yielded time.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I used to be a resident. Actually, I'm from Atlanta originally. I graduated from Georgia State University in special education. I taught special ed in Decatur City Schools at high school and also in DeKalb County. And as a little side note, I used to be one of the first Atlanta Hawks cheerleaders, the fast breaks. Now, that was when I was cute and precious. Now I'm old and cute and precious. Anyway, so I left Atlanta to pursue a career in flying, and I now currently live on the panhandle of Florida near Destin, where a lot of you people come visit, and we're glad to have you. I've been a huge Atlanta Falcon fan forever, even though they drive me crazy, and back in 2015, I decided when my mother-in-law passed away that I need to do something because I'm next. And I wanted to come see the Falcons because in Florida, everybody's Saints fans on the Panhandle. And you know how we feel about the Saints. So anyway, so I came to Atlanta. I decided I want to buy my season tickets at the Georgia Dome, which I did do. And they cost me a lot of money. I'm a small business person. I don't have a 401k or a pension plan. But I thought I've got to do this because I worked so hard in my small business of the Spa Admiral Norman in Niceville, Florida. And I work all the time. So the only fun I ever have is to go see the Atlanta Falcons. And I have seen every single game since the season tickets I purchased in 2015. But I needed a place to stay. And I wanted to be close to the stadium, Georgia Dome, and then Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which I also bought PSLs as well. So I came upon Peachtree Towers, a totally unique, wonderful building where it was built back in 1962 prior to the Hyatt, which was built in 1967. And of course, we are in the hotel district. And I personally bought that property so that I'd have a place to stay, and I wanted to be able to rent it out on Airbnb so it could help give me some extra income to pay for these expensive tickets, which I do support the city of Atlanta. And not to mention, I'm a premier host, a premier partner, and a super host with Airbnb. Have been for 6 years. I do everything I can to make everybody happy here, because I want people to come and stay in my home away from home and enjoy it like I do. So, not to mention, we're a lot cheaper than the hotels. I just found out, talked to someone just recently, I'm charging $110 a night at Peachtree Towers for my one unit, and the Hyatt Regency is charging $197 a night. That being said, I feel like for us at Peachtree Towers, of which there are 330 units, there's probably about 20 to 30 people that live there full time, but for the most part, we're rented on a short-term or long-term basis. We take special pains to make sure that nobody is disturbed. We have a 24/7 concierge staff that does not let you in the building if you don't have a fob, and you cannot get that fob unless you get it from the owners. The owners are held accountable. We can be fined up to $500 for issues with noise, smells like the marijuana that seems to be, runs rampant, it seems like up here. But ever since I bought my unit there, I love it. It's like a home away from, and I mean this sincerely, it's a home away from home. Two of my friends, Jody Kenny and Margaret Decker, she's the one that got me involved in the first place. We're buddies for life. And I just feel like we do a lot to help the hotel industry for a lot of reasons. Number one, I have people that want to stay with me and have stayed with me for market, and they like the fact that they can come to a home and not have to stay in a hotel room. I have families that want to come and visit all our wonderful sites in the city, like the Georgia Aquarium or Mercedes-Benz, and they like the idea that they have a 3-room condo versus a hotel room. And the security is paramount. During the pandemic, you couldn't believe, everybody loved it. We had an off-duty police officer, and we have staff at the entrance to the parking lot as well as when they first check in. And they do have to check in. They can't just walk into the building. So I would hope that you would consider grandfathering us people over there at Peachtree Towers because we are unique. We're right across from the Hyatt Regency. We were there before the Hyatt was.
Time has expired.
Thank you so much. I've never done this before, and I'm extremely nervous, but thank you for listening to me. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Jody Kinney is next, yielded time, so next would be Margaret Becker.
Hi, I'm Margaret Decker. I'm here on the short-term rental situation. A couple of people have said that, talked about how the short-term rental application does not make sense, and I wanted to ask you if you would please look at it more carefully because it truly doesn't. So I've got a personal home in the city of Atlanta, and I had to first apply for a rental permit for my home, but my home is in a high-rise that doesn't allow short-term rentals. I also was made to send letters to my neighbors. It makes no sense, and I just wondered if you could look at that a little more carefully. I went ahead and did that, although I'm sure my neighbors are going to go, what are you doing? Because we are not allowed to have short-term rentals in my primary residence. But again, I had to do that in order to apply. Just wanted to tell you that I'm here for Peachtree Towers. I own a condo in there. It's at 300 Peachtree Street. It's sandwiched right in between the hotel district, the Ritz, the Aloft, Marriott, Westin. We're sandwiched right there, right on Peachtree Street. Our building was built in 1962. One thing unique about our building, and that's what I guess I'm pleading to you, we're not like other buildings. We have, in our covenants, we have never had any rental restrictions. And I think we're the only building in Atlanta that really has zero rental restrictions. So from the start, people have known what they're buying into. This isn't something, short-term rentals has not been sprung on us or anyone that purchased there. We've known exactly what it is when we buy into it. And I'm just asking you to consider grandfathering in Peachtree Towers. This rental ban has just cast a really wide net, and I understand with disruption of people's homes and lives where it's coming from, but I'm just asking you to put a little more thought into the wide net. And again, ultimately, we would like to have our building grandfathered in because it has been the way from the start. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Next is Gloria Tatum, who yielded their time, but yielded to someone who did not sign up. So, Ms. Tatum, would you like to speak? No. Okay. Then next is Alma Toda Scott. Nope. Then next is Omi Mars.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Omi. I'm from Atlanta, born and raised, product of Atlanta Public Schools, and I'm a doctoral student at the University of San Francisco, and I'm speaking on behalf of housing security today. I don't have to stand here and speak on housing security statistics. We all know them. Everyone in this room knows. We drive past the manifestation of it every day. I don't have to pander to the lack of empathy oozing from the hearts and consciousness of the many landlords that sit behind me. The systemic and communal abuse by landlords is hard to miss, but they have a job to do. That job is to secure their pockets using the property that they own. Tenants also have a job, to pay monthly or periodically to landlords renting out property. However, tenants, especially low-income ones and those on the margins, have been trapped in a vulnerable and exploitative place. I stood outside the door and spoke to an elderly black woman defending her home and thought to myself, in this day and age of technological abundance, it's disheartening to see someone having to fight for a home, a place of safety. This fight is about safety. To have to fight against being exploited by a group of people that aren't properly regulated, the housing economy we live in continues to shift. And instead of landlords shifting with their tenants, they want us to do all the shifting. Yeah. They want people who live and work by the bell to worship it, trying to keep up with their rigid and oppressive housing standards. We toil away religiously doing service work and manual labor to appeal to their sense of pride in being property owners. We are tired and we deserve rights. This is about power, and we all know that when you strike power, power strikes back, but we're going to keep on striking. This is about very blatant, unequal power dynamics. Tenants deserve power that confronts exploitation. Tenants deserve to be protected, and we deserve equitable regulation from the state and from the people we vote to put into the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jose Medeiros, who yielded time. So next will be Benjamin Gross, who's been yielded time for a total of 6 minutes.
I brought slides for each council member. May I hand those out?
Yes. We'll grab those. Thank you, Mina.
I guess I just wanted to start off by taking a moment to acknowledge all of the incredible things that have been said today. People are struggling mightily, and my heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to them and their struggles. At the same time, I would like to extend my sincerest gratitude for the council members. You have to sit on the dais and hear these and try to be just and try to be fair. And you do not have an easy job, and I want to express my gratitude for giving me an opportunity to speak today. I will start off by giving you a moment of my background. Not because I think that it matters, but because there are elements inside of this presentation that revolve around simulation and forecasting, and I think it's important that you understand my credentials as it relates to that. I have a minor in applied mathematics from Emory University, and I have a master's in computational finance from Carnegie Mellon. I've worked in algorithm development, price forecasting for the last 15 years, and as it relates to these methodologies, I'm wholly qualified to provide perspective on them. Turning to the first page, I just want to mention really the goals of regulatory compliance. I am not qualified to speak about regulatory compliance, and so I've quoted the Journal of Corporate Finance, Journal of Corporate Financial and Commercial Law, where they talk about the goal that organizations aspire to achieve in their efforts are to ensure that people are aware of and take steps to comply with relevant laws, policies, and regulations. I've distilled that into three fundamental elements. One is awareness. One is that people take initiative towards compliance. And the third is that there is adoption of those ordinances. So let's start off with the overview of the STR market. By the way, President Shipman, I signed up for 3 minutes and then 2 people deferred their time. Is that not 9 minutes?
It's 2 minutes per person, Mr. Gross.
Thank you for clarifying. So the overview of the STR market has been a tremendous win for Atlanta. We have approximately 7,000 STRs here in Atlanta, and of those STRs, a little more than 50% are owned by people with 1 unit. Other people who have a small number of units, between 2 to 5, maybe people who have invested money to build a retirement for themselves, represent about 26% of the overall STR population. Estimates come in at about $15 million of revenue for the city in sales tax and another $8 million of hospitality tax. Turning to the next page, I'd like to talk a moment about the outcomes of the actual application process. To date, this is as of Friday when I completed this data, about 356 applications had been processed. That is a total of 636 submissions. If we look at the number that have been issued, a total of 188 have been issued, representing about 2.7% of the total population of STRs here in Atlanta. Let's do a little bit of math and forecast what happens if we take these numbers forward. You can think about the idea of what's called a bootstrapping simulation as a very simple analogy. If I went out every day and I chopped a bunch of wood, you could look at the amount of wood I chopped every day and then use that as a sample to draw from, and then create a simulation that went out and forecasted many, many days into the future to try to guess how much wood could Ben chop in the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days. That's all that I've done here, a very simple simulation. If we take the number of applications that the Office of Buildings is able to process, this forecasts where we will be on June 2nd. Within a reasonable amount of confidence, we can see that the Office of Buildings will be somewhere between 11.7 and 12.9% of total applications processed. This represents the percentage of the population of the entire STR population here in Atlanta. If we flip to the next page, that's just the number of applications that have been processed. The next page looks at the number of applications that are the number of licenses, that are actually issued. On that final page, on that second to last page, we can see somewhere in the ballpark of 6.9 to 7.7% of total applications will result in a license issuance. Finally, I want to present and continue these numbers forward and point out what happens if we continue on. What happens if we continue processing and continue issuing? I've taken relevant percentages of completion, both of the amount processed and the amount issued, and I think it's fair to say that if we are able to process upwards of 50% of the total applications, that would be a win. That would be a huge that would be a big win to demonstrate the capacity to regulate and provide licenses for the STR market. During similar dates, that would get us to about a 20% of total issuance of the total population. And at the last page, I would like to offer myself as resource. If you would like to do what's called scenario analysis, try different things. What if we were to increase the throughput? What if we added an intern? I'm happy to do or add any of these analyses to any questions that you may have. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. We have the next few individuals have yielded their time: David Holcomb, Sam Brasness, Laura Clemon, Michael Harvey, Rich Monroe. So we'll go to Kathy McClure, who has two individuals that yielded their time. So Kathy McClure will have 6 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy McClure. I am a short-term rental owner and a longtime Atlanta resident. I'm also the vice president of AMSTRA, an all-volunteer nonprofit representing the short-term rental community. We at AMSTRA fully support and encourage registration and compliance with the ordinance. I want to say that loudly and clearly. We have been in constant communication with our community since before the portal opened. We've hosted more than 5 webinars with our members to explain the process to them. And we have followed the data, as Mr. Gross has indicated. The data do not lie, and they do not tell a happy story for the city of Atlanta. The signs, the data that we have analyzed show a potentially failed regulatory process, and those data are available for anybody willing to look at them. The concerning data include too few applications relative to the number of short-term rentals. There are also a very large percentage of applications that require revisions. These data indicate a very confused and confounded applicant pool. This is a problem for regulators. This is a problem for the city going forward. The cause of this confusion is overkill, an overly complicated and unnecessarily complicated application. Too many affidavits. Oh my God. The average person hardly knows what an affidavit is, but when you add 3 affidavits to an application, you are asking for trouble. To prove your primary residence, you must submit as many as 5 separate documents: an affidavit, a deed, a driver's license, a tax bill, a utility bill, and the average citizen does not comprehend how to find many of those documents. The additional source of confusion is the city's repeated modifications, substantive modifications to the application process. This is a problem. Many of these modifications occurred after the portal opened. What happens when you modify the process and you don't tell people what you're doing? They get confused. This is a problem. Overreach. There is also a problem of overreach. Overreach, by what I mean by overreach is, and I am a lawyer so I can speak to this, I'm referring to strained legal interpretations. There are many in this being applied here by the legal department. The one that is most concerning from a standpoint of application processing is the requirement that every applicant who file for their primary residence in order to obtain a license for additional dwelling unit, whether or not they intend to use their primary residence as a short-term rental or not. The average number of documents you must submit to document a license for primary residence, even if you don't want that, is 15 to 20 separate documents. This is a requirement that appears nowhere within the four corners of the ordinance. This is overkill. This is overreach. This requirement alone doubles the work of the two people in the short-term rental office who are responsible for processing hundreds of applications. This is a problem. It has no legitimate purpose and serves no goal. As a result, we can see that processing times have been extended to an incredible degree. The ordinance itself says the planning department has 10 days to adjudicate an application. Processing times are averaging 5 weeks for each application. So what you have here is a serious problem. The failure to take action now will result in a failed regulatory process. June 1st, which this ordinance would accomplish, is a start. But will it be enough? I question whether it will. What will happen when that extension is not granted, when another extension is not granted, when we begin commencement of enforcement, is you will harden those who were otherwise willing to comply and apply into becoming illegal business owners. We don't want that. We don't want that for the city. Who will bear responsibility for this failed outcome? Mayor Dickens. The buck stops with Mayor Dickens. It will be on Mayor Dickens when there is a large number of illegal units being operated. The planning department officials, honestly intending, they will bear responsibility. The legal department will bear responsibility for its contribution to an unnecessarily complicated process. And this body, each of you, so long as you are in office, will bear responsibility for a failed regulatory process. We urge you to reevaluate, support the planning department in reevaluating this process. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Grant us more time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Arthur Modell. Oh, Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry, Mr. Lewis.
And I just want to speak to the data points from the last two people, just thinking about how numbers can go either way. There are many reasons that the numbers can be high, for example, on one side. For example, during the Super Bowl year, my grandmother, my aunt, and more people put up their houses for short-term rental. They're no longer in that market. They're no longer looking for short-term rental, looking to rent out a space for short-term rentals, though they're still in the numbers for a person. So they will never apply for that to be a short-term rental. They'll never apply to the planning department. But they're still in the numbers for that potentially to become a potential short-term rental. So that alone fudges the data to me, unless you see something else there.
Well, I would respond to that by saying that a lot of those so-called, dead, they're lying fallow, those aren't a significant factor anymore. The Super Bowl was 3 years ago in 2019. So I don't see that. We've also worked hard to refine our data so that we are dealing with the best available data that we can find that actually reflects active units.
But to confirm, those folks, like my grandmother who's no longer here, they may still be in those numbers, correct?
I don't know. I don't see a lot of that out there on the platforms. That we could investigate that. We'd be happy to look into that for you. But we do not believe this contributes significantly to the data that we see.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have Arthur Modell.
Thank you, Kathy. So I did want to give everybody a little bit of color on the, commercial picture of what this looks like for short-term rental purposes. So I'm the CEO of a company called West Home. We're really a corporate housing group that operates in multiple cities. I would agree with Kathy that the city's process in Atlanta for the short-term rental application process is by far, the most tedious process that we've been through and probably the most confusing process that we've been through. We've had multiple attorneys look at it as well. But here in Atlanta, we operate 100 units. We operate many other units in different cities as well. The partnerships that we have are all institutional landlords, so some of the more, the bigger developers that are name brand folks that you know of in the area. Our customers that work with us or that stay with us are folks traveling from Coca-Cola, Microsoft, traveling nurses, patients, patient family members, people getting cancer treatment, et cetera. These are all folks that need comfortable stays that are not at hotels, but they need comfortable extended stays. And this is a massive market inside the city. So these are not the partiers, the drug dealers, or the criminals that some of these folks are speaking of. These are also not party houses. So in terms of the issues, a lot of them can be mediated by a lot of the things that the ordinance even brings up. But for instance, the commercial folks, a lot of us are using decibel readers. A lot of us have smoke detectors inside of the units. We're background screening every single guest that comes and stays with us, regardless of the duration length, so we know exactly who they are. But that being said, all of the people are vetted. All of the issues, that could come up in any of our units remotely can be addressed within minutes, and then also, within 30 minutes inside the city, regardless of the night or time of night. So in terms of the short-term rental definition, we fall under that, even though we're part of the corporate housing community, because our average stay length is around 14 nights. But the current ordinance gives us, as a commercial operator, we do not have the ability to actually participate in the short-term rental licensing process at this point.
Time has expired.
Okay. So I do want to continue, but I think the ordinance does need to be extended because, one, there's the confusion issue that does need to be addressed, but also folks like us and the commercial operators and more stakeholders do need to be addressed in this process as well. So not just the mom and pop operators that you guys are trying to address.
Thank you. Next will be Jamie Parle.
I am Jamie Paul, and I am a former Navy veteran. I work in the city of Atlanta and a good citizen of the society here, and I work with the STRs, approximately 18 to 25 that I do. I maintain them on the buildings and grounds, maintenance and security for these 18 to 20 units. We in the last year have not seen any parties, clubbing out or anything like that. Most of the people that I have witnessed in my time as a maintenance person or getting emergency calls in the middle of the night that I get up and go to at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning in case of the toilet backs up or something in that line. We're there. And these people are, most of the ones on the east side are generally with Emory. They do a lot of the cancer treatments. My wife, for one, is a Huntington's disease family that I see a lot of those people come here because they have no hope. They come to Atlanta because Atlanta has some of the best neurosurgeons in the world, and they come here from across the world to be here, and those families come here to stay in these STRs as well. But we ensure, as my job, I ensure that these rooms, or these Airbnbs, STRs, whatever they should be, are secure to those families that are here. The occurrences that have occurred in the last year and a half that I've been on board with these, I've had zero problems in these properties with people neglecting the property, neglecting the neighbors, parking issues. Sometimes they may be because they might have 6 people coming in to visit with that family that doesn't have much time left to be here. And these houses that I work, I make sure that they're safe for those families. I make sure they're safe for the neighbors.
Time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lauren Meeks.
Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Meeks. I'm the owner of B&B Made Simple. We do high-touch property management for Airbnb's owners in the Atlanta area. I'm listed as the authorized agent for multiple homeowners. I have clients in Districts 1, 4, 5, and 12, and have personally submitted over a dozen short-term rental applications. None of my clients are large investors. They all own fewer than 3 single-family homes and truly desire to operate legally and morally. As an aside on the moral point, several of the other commentators that are here that have mentioned that landlords are all exploitative, that is simply not true as a blanket statement. I personally accept both shorter and longer term rentals, and also accept Atlanta housing vouchers in several of my units. But that aside, because I have worked with my clients on so many applications, I can personally attest to the extreme confusion and complication that surrounds the current STR ordinance. The applications I've submitted have needed on average 21 documents, which, if I am not mistaken, is literally more documentation than required to become a U.S. citizen. I've had documentation of homestead exemptions requested as proof of primary residence when that's not actually a requirement of primary residency. I've had applications paused for additional documentation that was not required documentation when I submitted the application. They were all submitted before the original April 1st deadline. We are now fewer than 2 weeks away from the new enforcement date, and most of my applications haven't even been looked at by the City of Atlanta. There's been a plethora of misinformation and miscommunication from the city. I personally attended the joint webinar with Airbnb in the city at the end of March, and not a single question was actually answered. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of questions posed, and none was answered. I understand that the ordinance intends to restrict the number of short-term rentals in the city, but the requirement that the application must first present a permit for their own home, I think, is confusing and unrealistic, as others have mentioned. I also wanted to say that I do sympathize with the residents of the Landmark building, but that is not indicative of the majority of the short-term rentals within the city. Landmark is infamous even among other hosts such as myself. The issue there is a poorly managed condo building, not the presence of short-term rentals. And just to address Councilman Lewis's question about the data points, we have, I believe all of that is active listings, and we can look it up on an address-by-address basis if you would like to have more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next was Zion Chu, who yielded time. Next will be Dennis Tidwell, who has 4 minutes total due to yielded time.
Good afternoon. I wanted to address comments that Councilman Lewis made at the Community Development and Human Services Committee last month. At this very podium, in public comment, he urged the committee to not grant an extension. He acknowledged the planning department's failures, but blamed the applicants for not having their, quote, business together. I'm an AMSTRA member, Mr. Lewis, and many people speaking here today are AMSTRA members. They're really smart people. I assure you, they have their business together. They are not government people. Government people opened the portal on March 1st and couldn't answer simple questions for 2 weeks. Government people told the public they had to wait on legal to tell them the answers to these simple questions. Short-term hosts, didn't change the applications or the affidavit forms without notice within that 30-day application window. It was government people, sir. The last city council created regulations to control the active 7,000 short-term rentals in Atlanta, but made the permit qualifications so narrow that only a few hundred can qualify. Now these same government people are desperate to get buy-in. It's the government people that are encouraging applicants to false swear on affidavits, stating that all you need to prove a primary residence is a utility bill. They don't check anything else. I bet 25% of the approved 188 permits right now are illegal permits held by non-residents. I hope that some of you will be open to listen to some of the smart hosts that we have here today, and so that we can help fix the issues of your broken ordinance. This extension will not help these people here today. I can tell you that. They're really smart. They'll be able to be in compliance and on time, Mr. Lewis. The extension is to help the city do its job. We're here to help the government fix this mess. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you for coming today. I know y'all are the smart people and the government people aren't. I'm not a government person. I think I was sent down here with a mandate to watch stuff like this. Thank you for the emails you sent this morning as well. I know you.
I look forward to meeting with you. I'd love to meet with Miss Overstreet. She clearly doesn't understand the ordinance as well. You said that you had to be a primary residence. It's not about home share, ma'am. You can have a primary resident plus one. But we want to be in the room, or I do. I don't speak for Hampshire. I'm not a board member. But we want to be in the room so you hear from hosts.
Yeah, and that's why I gave you an email address to reach out to us when you sent the email this morning. I got copies right here when you sent it to the wrong person for the past 2 weeks. Napoleon.
That's the person you sent.
Napoleon Jones, not Nicole Jones. Nicole Jones is my secretary. Thank you.
I look forward to meeting with you, sir.
Thank you. Next is Monica Johnson.
I'd just like to clarify, Natalie McLaughlin was signed up and left and meant to yield her time to me, so I was wondering if that went through. Regardless, I'm here to speak on behalf of myself, my community, and all of those who have been suffering under the state of affairs here when it comes to housing. Already today, earlier on, when we were honoring some, I believe, police officers, we invoked Martin Luther King. But I'd like to bring out, more his core principles toward the end of his life. And he said that there's nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty. The real question is whether we have the will. So I want to ask everyone here if we have the will to take care of and use our positions to take care of the community here, or do we want this city to become unaffordable, unattainable for the vast majority of people that grew up here? There are a lot of statistics that others have brought up, but we have them all written out. I work with the Housing Justice League, and we have the Tenant Bill of Rights that we have presented to several of you. We have also gotten responses from several of you during the candidate questionnaire when some of you were running. So I want to ask again if we will act and if we will not only invoke the legacy of civil rights, but protect the right to live a dignified life and have a home. Prior to the pandemic that we're still in, Fulton County still had one of the highest rates of eviction in the country, with over 800 a week. And we saw statistics in 2020 that approximately 10,000 deaths were at the result of eviction. So I want us to consider the violence that folks have to face when our housing is seen as a commodity and not a right. Even as rent assistance was available, volunteer groups had to do the work that there is plenty of funding for, of aiding people in the process of application, and many folks have still not received funds. So I want us to consider, what our priorities are and where we will spend resources. I want to ask Byron Amos to consider, the conditions of folks in his district. I know a woman on 412 James P. Brawley, who is living in slum conditions that should have already been condemned. And there's no recourse for any people that are living in slum conditions, and their landlords continue to make money and to receive stipends and funding. So I want us to ask whether or not, finally, we will participate in the forward movement of our community, or if we will hold them back. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Allison Johnson.
Good afternoon, everybody. I do want to follow my colleague, Monica Johnson. I'm Allison Johnson, the Executive Director with Housing Justice League. Like Monica said, we have reached out to many of you before to talk about this Tenants Bill of Rights. This Tenants Bill of Rights is not just about people who are renting. It is about legacy residents. Too often in our communities, we are seeing us who are renters are seen as just that. We are not seen or deemed valued in our communities. We have always been a part of these legacy communities, whether we have been renters or homeowners. But now we are facing a time when we are being displaced out of our communities. We need rent stabilization in the state of Georgia. But before we need that, we need to be protected. Renters and tenants in this state, we have no protections. This is an imbalance of power. So we're calling everybody to the table to help work this out. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, 30315, Zone 3. We got to get it together. Many of you have reached out to us, but we've reached back out. We have extended the olive branch, and we are going to continue to extend that, but we need your help. We are suffering. Rent increases are crazy. Our organization has been bombarded by people who can't afford to stay in their homes. Our schools are being threatened to close again because our communities have been displaced. Families are being moved out of their communities because we can't afford to stay there. We have got to be protected. We need rent control, but right now we need a tenant bill of rights to protect us. We can all agree that everybody in here wants a safe place to live and a decent place to live. Because we are renters, we should not be devalued. Our rights matter. We need to balance this power between tenants and landlords. We deserve to be in this city. We are the culture, remember? We created this place, and we deserve to stay in this place.
Thank you. Councilman Overstreet.
So I wasn't going to say anything, but I think I should, because it's important that everyone understands clearly what the legislation states, and I will not go into the legislation here, but you do have to be a primary, that does, in order to register and use your home as an Airbnb, it has to be your primary residence. I'm not confused about that, and I don't want anyone to, think that what the guy was saying was correct.
Oh, you're speaking to him, not
yes,
to... Well, okay,
not
yeah,
you.
I'm not speaking about that.
I heard you about the tenants bill of rights.
Okay.
I hear you.
All right.
But I just, I don't like wrong information being spread incorrectly. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Next up will be Ali Tour.
Good afternoon. My name is Ali Toure, and I'm a resident of District 7. Hey, Mr. Shook. I'm also in support of Housing Justice League's Tenant Bill of Rights package. It's informed by lived experience and supported by legal experts to be passed by the Atlanta City Council. The package aims to address the housing issues renters face, especially related to affordability, access, health, and accountability. Evictions, displacement, high rents, and exploitation of tenants in Atlanta have created a widespread and urgent crisis. Thousands of renters are being pushed out of their homes and communities or forced to live in hazardous conditions that threaten their health and safety. Renters make up 56.5% of the city of Atlanta residents, and Atlanta is also one of the most rent cost burdened cities, with 49.2% of residents of Atlanta paying more than 30% of their income for rent. So the protections that Housing Justice League is proposing would apply for would apply for rental properties across the city of Atlanta, the right to counsel, establishing a dedicated office of the tenant advocate, informing tenants of their rights, banning the box, rent stabilization, the right to cure, and the right to renew. Also, to conclude, Mr. Shook, I sent you an email last year when I moved to your district, introducing myself and asking you different ways that I can get involved with any projects that you're leading in our community, and you have yet to respond. So I would appreciate your response so you and I can build a relationship, and so I can be more involved in District 7. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Joe Burnett.
My name is Ms. Jordan Burnett, and I'm here to ask you all to pass the Tenant Bill of Rights. And I'm here because rates are always going up, and we need 24-hour security. And I live in a Columbia residential, and I rent there. But I should never have to pay any rent anywhere in America. I am the original Ayawaya, who the Cherokee, and I should never have to pay any rent. This was my ancestors' land all through this state here. And the Aboriginal indigenous people are homeless out here. I mean, what is going on here in Atlanta? Can't you all see out there going down the street here, all the homeless people in America, right here in Atlanta, Georgia? Don't they need help? Don't they need some place to live? You all have houses to live in. You all don't have to beg for rent and money to buy food, clothing, and shelter. But these people out here sleeping on the streets, they're begging every day. Every day they're begging. Can't you all help them? I mean, that's y'all's job, isn't it? I voted for you, Mr. Juan over there, and Mr. Amir Farouk. You're my representative for my district. I mean, what's going on? I mean, I just want to know, because something is wrong, really wrong. And one of the greatest massacres here at Fort Negro, and the Trail of Tears was about black people. And the Seminole Wars were about black people. And it should be time now that these indigenous Aboriginal black people get off these streets out here, and these babies. Have y'all seen these little black babies out here in these streets? You all haven't seen them? I mean, what's going on? Are you blind? I mean, like I say, I should never have to pay no rent. I'm the Aboriginal indigenous. This was my ancestors' land everywhere before it was stolen by the greatest Holocaust in America.
Thank you. Next was Natalie McLaughlin, but I believe that she had to depart. So next will be Sherry Brown.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Sharice Brown. I'm a Peoplestown resident and a member of Housing Justice League. I've come today to ask for your support for the Housing Justice Tenant Bill of Rights, the protection that we need, and also to speak to rent control. Georgia has no law that prevents rent control, the landlords, for increasing rent whenever they want to. That is not right. We have rental insecurities here, and it's a feminist issue because most women have to stay in the situations they are because they can't afford rent with stagnant wages. So today, I ask you to support a Bill of Rights and to support women issues. Most women are the head of the household, especially in low-income housing. I passed homeless encampments right across the street coming into this building. And I see families there, women and children. So today we are asking you to support our Tenant Bill of Rights, and we do need some legislation around rent control. There are 25 states that get it. Georgia is one of the 25 that don't have it. So I know it can be done. So we are asking you all to support us in any way you can to get rent control in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Pat Bailey.
I come before you today as a resident of the Pittsburgh community in Southwest Atlanta. There's a neighbor on my street that he and his friends blast their music 24 hours a day, some weekends, most weekends. It is impossible to get any rest at all. We were told that if we called the police, that they would start building a case and would issue citations. This has been going on for several months. My question is, when will the citations start? They were called, the police were called on Friday of this week because it was just crazy. The police came out at 2:30 in the morning. They had verbal altercations with these people. It's a non-stop street party. The police had verbal altercations with these people. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was cited. When is something going to happen? We've been going through this for months. I've been calling your office, Antonio, trying to get something done. Nothing has been done. When is something going to happen? I'm done. When?
And you give me the address. I'll drive over there myself with the police chief. You have the address.
We've given it to Mina.
To Mina?
Yes, okay. We've met with her several times.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, our neighbor, one of the neighbors, because he would approach them, ask them nicely to turn the music down, they threatened him. Now he has a target on his back because he asked them in a nice way to please turn the music down. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We want to go to sleep. It doesn't happen.
And I appreciate you, and I know now that I know you work with my office, I feel even better. And so now I'll insert myself in it. Thank you, Mina, for making sure you work with her. I'll insert myself in it now. But I'm pretty sure if you've been working with us constantly, we've talked to the police about it. Now I'll insert myself in it. Thank you so much for working with us. Now you work with me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tyrone Clemens.
Hello, council. It's the first time I'm doing this, but I wanted to come to you as a resident of Pittsburgh as of last year because although I'm still relatively new to the area, I've seen that the community is hurting. It needs a lot. It needs better infrastructure, better sidewalks, speed control. It needs a police presence that will willingly enforce city ordinance when necessary because legacy residents deserve more. I've seen what the city of Atlanta has to offer, and I've seen how it's growing in other communities. So when does Pittsburgh get that kind of attention? When do we get the infrastructure we need to be successful? As my neighbor had recently spoke, I'm the person who's being targeted by these individuals solely because I decided to speak up and tell them that it's not acceptable. The noise, the constant noise, the reckless driving, the pollution, they pollute lots that are not even their property. Their houses are dilapidated. There's clearly a code enforcement issue going on that is not being addressed by the city, and it needs to be addressed since yesterday. Because again, you have legacy residents that have paid their due, paid their taxes, taken care of their homes, lived a peaceful life, and they're not getting the same kind of investment from the city that other residents in other districts are getting. So I just need to know what can we do to get this solved.
And once again, that's why I ran for office. They sent me down here with a mandate. I got down here and we've been talking about the south side of the city. So I appreciate you for coming down. I echo everything you're saying. My goal every day is to make it better for us.
Yes.
And so once again, give him my personal number as well. And we'll work together. Every day my goal is I wake up every morning thinking about how to make life better for people off Cleveland Avenue, Metropolitan, and Jonesboro Road. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next was John Arthen, who yielded time. So next will be Jennifer Brooks.
Good afternoon.
afternoon, and thank you all for your service. I'm Jennifer Brooks. I live in downtown Atlanta. I'd like to just mention there's a paper of Jason Winston 22-0-1174 that's held in committee, and I just wanted to say, Councilmember Winston, that I support your efforts to get a minimum age requirement for the e-scooter use, and I'm happy to help in any way I can to make the micromobility program a success. In anticipation of legislation authored by Councilmember Farokhi and perhaps others that would repeatedly close Peachtree Street and advance plans for two-way conversion of other roadways in downtown Atlanta, I would just ask you please to consider how vulnerable my business neighbors are as they recover from the pandemic. And please realize how critical life safety access is throughout the central business district and the urgent need for ADA compliance on all public rights-of-way at all times. I have one brief comment about short-term rentals and my big concern about the volume of short-term rentals in the inventory. These are business opportunities that are taking away from the inventory of permanent housing that we have in the city, and I wouldn't want this body to actually actively provide ways to remove dwellings from the permanent inventory. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next will be Henry Jordan.
Giving honor to the Spirit of God, to everyone that's here. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. 1 Samuel, 2nd chapter, 6th verse. Hannah's declaration takes its place beside many other texts, demonstrating that Old Testament believers clearly understood there was life after death. J. Montgomery seeking to kill me, you ask for death. I have seen also in the prophets of Jerusalem an horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen also the hands of evildoers, that none doth return from his wickedness. They are all of them unto me as Sodom, inhabitants thereof as Gomorrah. Jeremiah 23rd chapter 14th verse. The government practices deceit, defraud, mischief, treachery, slavery, writing of terms, conditions, contracts that promote injustice. Sexual sins like homosexuality strengthen the hands of evildoers, like Putnam. Only Jesus can stop Putnam, so we need to seek to obey Christ. Thou turnest man to destruction and sayest, return ye children of men. Psalm 90 chapter 3rd verse. Your life is like a blade of grass that sprouts, fades, withers, and dies in a day. To live for God gives life. I had a dream the property that is Christ's will for me to purchase will be protected from the plot of China by Jesus' giant angel. And he that curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Exodus 21st chapter 17th verse. This verse relates to authority with the sanctity of the family in mind. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and he hears, and his ears are open to their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against them that do evil. 1 Peter 3rd chapter 12th verse. Jesus could not work miracles if he were a sinner, as they said. Christ's hate for you to promote slavery through terms and conditions of a contract. Y'all seek to do unrighteousness to the righteousness. And righteousness creates death and not life.
Thank you. Next is Todd Jackson, I believe, or Todd Jackley, sorry. Todd Jackson, sorry. You've been yielded 2 minutes, so for a total of 4 minutes.
Yeah. I'm
I'm here to talk about the short-term rental program. I am an owner in Emmons Park. I have lived there in the units for the past 2.5 years. I have, and going through this process was extremely painstaking. To have only 2 units, listening to some of these other people, Armstrong members, listening to Ben back here, I think there was another lady over here that was speaking, to go through and file for these short-term rental program and file all the paperwork and pull it together and get it done in time, and then to turn around and then wait the 10 days and not have a reply from the city, and for it to still show up as TBD is unacceptable. You guys set the program, you guys put the program in motion, and you're the guys that said this is the date that it should be delivered as to your response. I'm a little disappointed that if you are going to put the program together, it's something I believe has been in the process for about 2.5 years when it was first drafted, and for you to all of a sudden get the program put together and then set the deadlines and not meet the deadlines is disappointing. And I think that if you're going to have the deadlines in black and white in the program and have it set at 10 days, then deliver on the promise. At this time, at this rate where you're going right now, if based on what Ben's information that he shared, I'm going to be in violation as of May 1st. For someone that's taken the proper steps per the ordinance is completely unacceptable. And I would like to see what is it that's going to take to get this program, if you're going to put it enact it, it has to be extended. Absolutely has to be extended to be able to meet all the other applicants that are already in the process. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. For those in the room, you can see that our clock has a technical glitch, so I am keeping time up here myself. Next will be Scarlett Rivera.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks a lot for the opportunity. I wasn't born in the United States, but I have lived in Atlanta for the past 7 years, and I consider this place my home. I started cleaning for Airbnb back in 2019 as a side hustle, and today I have a total of 6 people working in different teams. Sometimes we have to split, and we clean about 4 to 5 houses each team on weekends. I can testify that most people that rent these houses are families that come visit other families in the city of Atlanta. We continue to grow, and we look to grow, and as we grow, I ensure that I employ more people contributing to this community. Back in 2019, Airbnb gave families an option to have enjoyed a vacation or to receive a medical treatment in the city of Atlanta. And it was us, the cleaners, who ensured the safety and security of these people, even when we did not have masks or gloves. People were scared of staying in hotels because they did not want to be around other people and because they had to use elevators and touch contaminated areas. This also made possible for me and my team to continue to bring a check home to provide food for our families. All of my clients are people just like me and you who own properties and also have a full-time job, and that's why they need us. They need the cleaners. This whole confusion about regulations is clearly pushing back a lot of the business that is available for us. And it's affecting my small business, as many of my clients have to cancel existing reservations or even block future dates because they will be in violation in the few coming up weeks.
Time has expired.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Next is Archbishop John Lewis.
Good
afternoon. I certainly hope you can understand me with the mask on. I must admit I do have concerns that here in the People's House with all of the people speaking at this same mic, that there is no sanitation being done. Let me begin by saying today all the things that I have heard spoken in this room have touched me at a deep place as far as affordable housing and other issues that we are faced with in this city. And as the chairperson of the historic Vine City Civic Association, which is one of the oldest communities in this city, the Neighborhood Association has put in place a $55 million development with approximately 200 plus units. We have been leasing the land where we are for the last 3 or 4 years now, paying $2,000 a month, and with the COVID, we have not even been able to operate fully. We came up with a developer, we came up with the funding, we came up with proof of funds for the property, only to be told that the property now, we agreed to pay, which we went by one of the other projects in the community who had presented a development right at $2 million an acre, which was too much money for Vine City because it's pushing the people completely out of the city. And when we put the contract in with the proof of funds, we were told that we have somebody that wants to give us $6 million an acre for property in Vine City. We cannot allow this because in allowing this is going to push the current residents and legacy residents and people who have lived in that community. My family itself has lived on Atlanta's west side for over 100 years. And to sit by and to watch, right now I have been taken into my house. I have a woman there with a little 6-month-old baby. Because she has no place to stay with. And what am I supposed to do? I went and moved to stay with my sister so that she could have the privacy to be there with her baby. We've got to do what we need to do. People TV, and I'll say this, I add this as I close. Vine City Civic Association has a television show on People TV. All of these persons that have spoken in here today, where else can you get the forum to talk about the issues and the things that we're talking about if you can't do it on public access TV? We need to protect that and make sure that public access TV, People TV Channel 24, is put back on the air and put back on the air yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Prophet Curtis Hairston.
Amen. Praise God again. We already have stated homelessness in Atlanta and Fulton County, and the fact of the matter that people are still dying on your streets due to homelessness every day, and all of what these people I know and see every day are complaining about. So we have a problem with I understand, we have a problem with law enforcement, law with tenants, but both of those create homelessness. But homelessness creates money for the city. People get locked up, and it creates money for the city as well. So I'm putting this stuff together because I'm very smart. 2 + 2 is 4, okay? Now, I told y'all back in 2014, 15, there was going to be a pandemic. A pandemic happened. I told y'all there was some money missing. $30 million came missing up with MARTA. Didn't it? Now, I'm on the MARTA bus, waiting for 30 minutes. I recorded it. It's on my Facebook page. I'm going to give it to y'all. And then I got to the bus. The MARTA bus driver cusses me out because he's late for 30 minutes. Now, you understand something. Now, ain't nobody no dummy. Lakeisha Lance Bottoms gets turned away at a restaurant, the former mayor of your colleagues. Dominique Wiggins gets turned away at the same restaurant. 2 plus 2 is 4, right? The average black person makes $15 an hour in this city. Bushwick, how far is Bushwick away from here? Bushwick, Georgia, how far away? Ahmaud Arbery got shot in the back by 2-3 white guys. Brunswick. If you can't put the dots together, I can. And you got to understand something. Understand one thing. If you understand one thing, nothing else. I ain't scared. I ain't scared to go nowhere with nobody. Understand? I'm a prophet. Read your scripture. You know what a prophet does.
Time has expired.
I told you, and I'm going to tell you again. No justice.
No peace.
No peace. You write that down. People are tired again. Injustice is happening in the city under your. I ain't gonna say it under your nose because y'all know about it.
Time has expired.
And y'all keep acting like it's not a problem. Well, it's a problem in the city when you got elderly women dying underneath your bridges. You got elderly men and women dying outside in the winter time. And y'all talking about a warm shelter.
Time has expired, Mr. Harrison.
I don't care about no time, man.
Thank you.
Told you what.
Next is Errol Allen. Next is G. Leonard. Next is D. Whitmore.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? I'm Devontae Whitmore, a young entrepreneur and creator. By being here long, by being at this council meeting long, I hear there's a lot of problems with violence of the young people. So what I want to do, I want to create a platform called Streetwear Fashion Week, where young creatives and young people could possibly get off these streets and do something creative. Because in the urban community, there's not much for us to do other than go to these nightclubs. And what comes with nightclubs is the smoking weed, getting drunk. And not saying that's the main problem of why violence is happening, but I believe that's a good percentage of the problem of why it's happening. So I've been working on this platform, Streetwear Fashion Week, where young creators could come, the community of Atlanta could come, and everybody could come and do something creative. And also, far as Atlanta, people struggle to go out to New York Fashion Week. People struggle to go out to LA Fashion Week. We have an Atlanta Fashion Week here, but it's not geared, to be honest, it's not geared towards the urban community. And streetwear is a form of fashion, so I want to bring that to the table. And also, with that being said, I also have a nonprofit organization that that all the events for Streetwear Fashion Week, we're going to do something to show the nonprofit organization. The nonprofit organization is about treating young minorities' mental health. And also giving them assistance, whether it's financials, education, child care, and so on. And I just want to pitch the idea to the city council, and I believe y'all can help in any way y'all can, financials or connects or permits or anything. My plan was to do this Labor Day weekend, September 2nd through the 5th. And I believe it'll be a great start for the young people to get off these streets and do something creative, because we got a lot of creative people and they don't always want to go to the club. They want to do something creative, but there's not a big platform to show that creativity.
Time has expired. Thank you. Our final speaker is Ryan Toth, or Toth, I apologize.
Toth. Thank you, Mr. Shipman. I'll try to be quick because I know we're kind of beating a dead horse here with the short-term rental ordinance. My name is Ryan Toth, and I professionally manage 63 doors. I live in District 3. I manage in District 2 and in District 8. I think it's important to note that the 63 doors are spread across 4 commercially zoned buildings. Either myself, a small investor, or a development group holds ownership. I've hosted over 5,000 happy stays. I can say with confidence that I'm creating a positive experience for the Atlanta traveler. My reviews are public if you want reference to those. If there is a complaint by a guest, it is usually related to crime, which is outside of my building, it's outside of my control. In my opinion, the STR ordinance is flawed, confusing, and incomplete. I cannot figure out for the life of me why commercial zoning has not been addressed specifically. My group, we do offer short-term rentals, but that term does not appropriately represent our business model. We offer flexible living. I want to emphasize flexible living. A guest can book for a day, a month, or a year. As it sits today, we are hosting at least 6 guests on movie productions, about 10 traveling nurses. I'd like to quote an article from Forbes magazine on 3/21/22. The pandemic has meant different things to different people, but one byproduct of the COVID contingents seems to have impacted a disappropriate number of folks. That is that the arrival of a new level of flexible and working and living. With remote work allowing unprecedented levels of lifestyle mobility, the traditional 12-month rental lease just doesn't make sense as it once did. Our group has brought millions of investment dollars to Atlanta to renovate buildings with the intention of offering flexible living. One of the apartment buildings is called Wynwood. It's on the corner of 19th and West Peachtree. Before it was purchased, it was a half-empty, asbestos-filled eyesore. It is now sitting on the historic registry, but we don't know what to do with it, because we had this goal and now this ordinance has kind of gotten in our way. So the investors and the development group have now halted any future developments in Atlanta. I think it's significant. I do not understand what motivated the ordinance. As it sits, I believe the outcome of the ordinance will cost the city thousands of dollars in operational costs and subsequently losing the city millions of dollars in tax revenue. If the ordinance passes as it sits, I will comply, but first I want to be sure the city has found a way to effectively regulate.
Time has expired.
I find it hard to believe that the city has the resources to effectively regulate. In effect, you will lose good players and keep the bad players. I started this management company when I was laid off my job, my hospice job during the pandemic. It saved my career. It is my livelihood. I employ 8 people, and I just had a beautiful 5-month-old daughter. My business pays for her health insurance.
Time has expired.
If this passes in its current form, it will effectively put me out of business and subsequently prevent me from affording her health insurance for my daughter, and furthermore, my 8 employees will be out of a job. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all members of the public for their comments, and with that, we will move to the report of the journal. Mr. Clerk.
I, Forrest Webb III, City of Atlanta Municipal Clerk, do by here certify that the action minutes of the March 21st, 2022 council meeting are true and correct.
Do I have a motion to adopt? Moved by Mr. Wan. Is it seconded by Mr. Faroki? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Please open the vote.
The vote is now open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is now closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. Motion to adopt is passed. Mr. Clerk, we'll move now to communications.
Mr. President, if I can sound items 1 through 3 as a block.
Please proceed.
22-C-5051, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Ms. Jasmine Moore to serve as a member of the Public Safety Commission. 22-C-5052, a communication from Chief Rodney Bryant, Atlanta Police Department, appointing Deputy Chief Carvin Tyus to serve as a member of the Public Safety Commission. 22-C-5053, a communication from Nicola Hines, President, League of Women Voters of Atlanta, Fulton County, submitting the appointment of Ms. Sharice Reyes, Esquire, to serve as a member of the Atlanta Citizens Review Board. This appointment is for a term of 3 years. Staff recommendation to refer to Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee and Committee on Council.
Let the items follow that course. Please proceed.
22-C-5054, a communication from President Doug Shipman, reappointing Mr. Derek George to serve as a member of the Water Sewer Appeals Board. This appointment is for a term of 3 years to begin retroactively on November 20th, 2020, and expire November 19th, 2023. Staff recommendation to refer to City Utilities Committee and Committee on Council.
Let it follow that course.
22-C-5055, a communication from Council members Marcy Collier Overstreet, District 11, Antonio Lewis, District 12, and Keisha Shawn Waits, Post 3 at large, appointing Mr. Wayne Martin to serve as a member of the Zoning Review Board. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Staff recommendation to refer to Zoning and Committee on Council.
Let it follow that course.
22-C-5056, a communication from Nikolai Hines, Chair, Governing Board of Office of Inspector General, submitting the reappointment of Ms. Jabu Sangova to serve as the Ethics Officer for the City of Atlanta. This appointment is for a term of 5 years. Staff recommendation to refer to Finance Executive Committee and Committee on Council.
Let it follow that course.
22-C-5057, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman, appointing Mr. Ali Kotat to serve as a member of the West End Community Improvement District, CID. This appointment is for a term of 4 years. Staff recommendation to refer to Community Development Human Services Committee and Committee on Council.
Let it follow that course.
Mr. President, if I could sound items 8 through 10 as a block.
Please proceed.
22-C-5058, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman, appointing Mr. Jason Terrell to serve as a member of the Atlanta Commission on Fatherhood, Men and Boys. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. 22-C-5059, a communication from Council members Liliana Bakhtiari, District 5, Alex Wan, District 6, Howard Shook, District 7, Mary Norwood, District 8, and Matt Westmoreland, Post 2 at large, appointing Mr. Jonathan Russell to serve as a member of the Human Relations Commission. This appointment is for a term of 3 years. 22-C-5060, a communication from Council members Andrea L. Boone, appointing Mr. Jermaine Clark to serve as a member of the Atlanta Commission on Fatherhood, Men and Boys. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Staff recommendation to refer to Committee on Council.
Let all 3 items follow that course.
Mr. President, if I could sound items 11 through 12 as a block.
Please proceed.
22-C-5061, a communication from Danielle Hampton, Chair Audit Committee, submitting the Performance Audit Report, Direct Payments. 22-C-5062, a communication from Danielle Hampton, Chair Audit Committee, submitting the follow-up review, Office of Contract Compliance. Staff recommendation to refer to Finance Executive Committee, both items.
Let both items follow that course.
22-C-5063, a communication from Danielle Hampton, Chair Audit Committee, submitting the Performance Audit Report, Streetlight. Staff recommendation to refer to Transportation Committee.
Let it follow that course.
Mr. President, if I could sound items 14 through 19 as a block.
Please proceed.
22-C-5064, a communication from Chief Procurement Officer Martin Clark, submitting the March 14, 2022 through March 18, 2022 weekly contracts report. 22-C-5065, submitting the March 21st, 2022 through March 25th, 2022 weekly contracts report. 22-C-5066, submitting the March 28th, 2022 through April 1st, 2022 weekly contracts report. 22-C-5067, submitting the April 4th, 2022 through April 8th, 2022 weekly contracts report. 22-C-5068, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Council Member Jason Dozier to serve as a member of the West End Community Improvement District. This appointment is for a term of 4 years. 22-C-5069, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Council Member Howard Shipp to serve as a member of the Buckhead Community Improvement District, CID. This appointment is for a term of 4 years. The recommendation for all 6 items is to accept and file.
Let all 6 items follow that course. Any other items?
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, is there any vetoed legislation for consideration today?
There is none, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business for consideration today?
There is none, Mr. President.
Thank you. So we'll now move to consent agenda section 1, which begins on page 6. These are all items on ordinances for second reading. And are there any items to be removed from this consent agenda today? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt all items. Moved by Mr. Wan, seconded by Ms. Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote on the motion to adopt section 1 consent agenda.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Mr. President, the system has frozen. If we could take that vote by unanimous consent.
Without objection, we'll adopt this through unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please sound the count.
Unanimous consent of members present is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt Section 1 consent agenda passes. We'll now move to Section 2 of the consent agenda, which begins on page 25. These are all ordinances for first reading, and in this case, I'll entertain an adoption to, a motion to refer. Is there anything to be removed from Section 2 of the consent agenda? Hearing none, motion to adopt has been offered by Mr. Wan. Is there a second? Seconded by Overstreet. Ms. Overstreet, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll now move to vote on the motion to refer all items in the consent agenda section 2.
System is still frozen, Mr. President.
Thank you. Without objection, we'll adopt this via unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please sound the count.
Unanimous consent of members present is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. Section 2 of the consent agenda is adopted. We'll now move to the reports of standing committees. First will be the Finance Exec, Mr. Chair Wan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I do not have any legislation from our committee before everybody, but I do have 2 announcements that I'd like to read. First one is the Department of Finance will host a fiscal year 2023 Lunch and Learn for council members on this Friday, April 22nd, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. in the City Council Terminus Conference Room. This Lunch and Learn will provide an overview of the budget process. Items of discussion will include departmental briefings, how amendments work, establishing revenue targets, required budget contributions, and enterprise funds. If you have not already RSVP'd, please confirm via the invitation sent by Ms. Kempson-Wright. Lunch will be provided, and to the extent that new council members can attend this, I think will be helpful as we're about to enter the budget season. Second announcement is that the fiscal year 2023 budget hearings will begin the week of May 2nd. The calendar is being finalized for approval and will be distributed to all council members by this Wednesday. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chair Wan. Next, we'll move to the Committee on Council. Chair Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, everyone. Please turn to page 29 on your agenda for the report of the Standing Committee on Council. Mr. President, we would like to take items 1 through 6.
Please proceed.
Item 1, 22-C-5024, a communication from Tanya Greer, County Clerk, to the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, submitting the appointment of Ms. Natalie Horn to the Atlanta Beltline Tax Allocation District TAD Advisory Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Item 2, 22-C-5036, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman reappointing Mr. John Izard to serve as a member of the Little Five Points Community Improvement District. This appointment is for a term of 4 years to begin retroactively on February 17th, 2019 and expire February 16th through 2023. Item 3, 22-C-5041, a communication from Council members Jason Winston, District 1, Amir Faroki, District 2, Byron D. Amos, District 3, Jason Dozier, District 4, and Michael Julian Bond, Post 1 at Large, appointing Ms. Haley Ford to serve as a member of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Planning Commission. Item 4, a communication, Item 4, 22-C-5042, a communication from Council members Liliana Batiera, District 5, Alex 1, District 6, Howard Shook, District 7, Mary Norwood, District 8, and Matt Westmoreland, Post 2 at Large, reappointing Mr. Andrew Schwarzenberger to serve as a member of the Housing Commission. This appointment is for a term of 2 years to begin retroactively on March 5th, 2022 and expire March 4th, 2024. Item 5, 22-C-5044, a communication from Collie Greenwood, Interim General Manager, Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, MARTA, submitting the appointment of Chief Michael Scott Crair to serve as a member of the Public Safety Commission. Item 6, 22-C-5046, a communication from Council President Doug Shipman appointing Mr. Philip Alawale to serve as a member of the Atlanta Commission on Fatherhood, Men and Boys. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. Mr. President, these items were found favorable. Motion to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt the 6 outlined communications from the Committee on Council. Since these are communications, we can do these via unanimous consent. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, is there any objection to adopting these via unanimous consent? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, please sound the count.
Unanimous consent of members present is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. All 6 items outlined are adopted. Please proceed.
Item 7, 22-R-3404, a resolution by Committee on Council to sunset certain boards, authorities, commissions, and other groups created by action of the Atlanta City Council because such boards, authorities, commissions, and other groups have accomplished the purposes for which they were created, whose authorized term has expired and are no longer required, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this item was found favorable. Motion to adopt.
There's been a motion to adopt 22-R-3404. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to adopt 22-R-3404. Mr. Clark, is the system working?
Still down.
Still down?
President.
So I would ask that we take a voice vote per each member.
Please hold, Mr. President. Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, how would you like to have your vote reflected? Aye. Councilman Matt Westmoreland. In favor. Keisha Shawn Waits.
Aye.
Jason Winston.
Aye.
Amir Faroki.
Aye.
Byron Amos. Jason Dozier.
Aye.
Liliana Bakhtiari. Alex Wan. Howard Shook.
Aye.
Mary Norwood. Dustin Hillis. Andrea Boone.
Present.
Please.
Yes.
Marcy Carly Overstreet. Antonio Lewis.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. President.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt is adopted. Please proceed.
Mr. President, our final item is number 8, 22-0-1150, a substitute ordinance by Committee on Council to amend City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Section 66-2, precinct boundary lines and polling places by amending the 2017 Precincts and Polling Places Ordinance in Fulton County Precincts 2, 11-2, 3I, 3C, 6R, 7M, 8A, 8G, and 11R due to facilities unable to accommodate polling places, operations, facility undergoing renovations, and facility voting site is not handicap accessible. Mr. President, this item was found favorable on substitute. Motion to adopt.
It's been a motion to adopt 22-0-1150. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1150.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Will everyone please vote? The vote is now closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays. Duly noted. Mr. President, we're adding Councilman Shook, 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt passes. Chair Boone, please proceed.
Mr. President, we would like to recognize and wish the Honorable Antonio Lewis and the Honorable Michael Julian Bond a happy birthday. Happy birthday. Mr. President, this concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the Zoning Committee. Chair Overstreet.
For those that are following along, we are on page 31. We'll start with ordinances for second read. So item number 1 is 22-0-1060 is zoning case number Z-22-02. And this is a text amendment. The rezoning is the ordinance is amending the zoning code to replace chapter 18Q-SPI-17 Piedmont Avenue Special Public Interest District Regulations with a new chapter 18Q to update the regulations. This item was favorable out of committee, so I make a motion to adopt. Is there a second? Well, it doesn't have to be a second.
Doesn't need to be seconded. There's been a motion to adopt 22-0-1060. Is there any discussion of the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote to adopt 22-0-1060.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Please vote. vote is now closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt is adopted. Chair Boone, please proceed. Chair Overstreet, please proceed.
Thank you, President Shipman. I would like to take items 2 through 5 as a block.
Please proceed.
Okay, number 2, 22-0-1056, case number Z-21-80, location is 559, 565, and 569 10th Street Northwest and 997 Curran Street. The ordinance is to rezone from R5 SPI 8 to Family Residential Home Park Special Public Interest District to MRC 2 SPI 8, which is Mixed Residential Commercial Home Park Special Public Interest District. Number 3, 22-0-1128, zoning case number Z-22-03, location 943 Rice Street Northwest. The ordinance is to rezone from R-4A, single-family residential, to R-4BC, single-family residential conditional. Number 4, 22-0-1129, case number Z-22-04, location is 2051, 2085, also known as 2075, and 2095 Marietta Boulevard Northwest. The ordinance is to rezone from I-1, which is light industrial, to MRC2, mixed residential commercial. And number 5, 22-0-1131, zoning case number U-21-34, location 3255 Empire Boulevard Southwest. The ordinance grants a special use permit for a daycare center. Items 2 through 5 were favorable as amended out of committee. I make the motion to adopt.
There's been a motion to adopt 4 items, 22-0-1056, 22-0-1128, 22-0-1129, and 22-0-1131. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt these 4 items? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to adopt the 4 items.
I understand we may have an issue related to the order in which this is being approved, that there's a related issue with CDHS. I'm not sure, but I wanted to raise that. Who's the chair?
Which one, Ms. Hickson?
The one you all are getting ready to vote on now.
It's 4 of them.
Which of the 4 specifically? Which of the 4 items?
Usually you have CDHS land use before you do the zoning. We got the zoning.
Chair Overstreet, go ahead.
The 10th Street matter.
Councilmember Amos, is she speaking of something that...
If they are referring to the 10th Street property, both papers are ready to move forward.
Thank you.
My understanding that they did go through CDHS. Is that correct, Chair Overstreet?
That's what I was told.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're proceeding. Motion to adopt.
So there's a motion to adopt. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Mr. Clerk.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is now closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt the 4 items 22-0-1056, 22-0-1128, 22-0-1129, and 22-0-1131 passes. Chair Overstreet, please proceed.
Thank you. Now we're down to first reads, and we only have one first read. And it's item number 6, legislation number 22-0-1262 is zoning case number Z-21-114. Location is 1 498, 1500, and 1504 Murphy Avenue Southwest. The ordinance is to rezone from I-1 Light Industrial to C-1 Community Business District. The motion is to refer to ZRB and Zoning Committee.
There's a motion to refer 22-0-1262 to ZRB and Zoning Committee. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dozier. Is there any discussion on the motion to refer? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to refer 22-0-1262.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Will everyone please vote? The vote is now closed. 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to refer is passed. Any other items? Chair Overstreet.
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll move to the report of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. Chair Hillis.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have two items and also an announcement. First item, an ordinance 22-0-1076. An ordinance by Council Members Byron Amos and Michael Julian Bond is substituted by the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Part 2, Chapter 106, Article 5, Section 106-227, to add additional exemptions for homeless youth and teenagers and for other purposes. It is favorable on substitute with 6 yeas and 1 abstention from the committee.
Motion to adopt coming out of committee, ordinance 22-0-1076. Is there any discussion on this ordinance, on this motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is now closed. 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt passes. Please proceed.
I'll just bring to attention the President, there's an abstention, and need to put the reason, personal or financial reason
Yes,
for the
thank
abstention.
you. Councilmember Waits, is there a reason for the abstention? Mr. Lewis would like his to be a yes vote.
Duly noted. And Councilwoman Waits, I could not hear.
Councilwoman Waits, could you say that again? Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Yes, sir. I was just advised that unless I have a personal conflict, I cannot abstain.
Correct.
So I'm going to record my vote as a yes.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Duly noted.
Please sound the revised count.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt passes. Please proceed.
Yes, next item is 22R3255, a resolution by Council Members Alex Wan and Byron Amos to amend 21R3040, which established the City of Atlanta Alcohol Technology Advisory Group 3, ATAG 3, for the purpose of amending the membership to remove the appointment of the ex officio member of the License Review Board and to require that no sitting member of the License Review Board may serve on the ATAG 3 and for other purposes. The motion out of the committee was to file, but as my understanding, there is a substitute motion to hold on the breast of council for 2 weeks from the author, Councilmember Wan.
Councilmember Wan, I'll recognize you at this point.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been in conversations with the administration. While I appreciate the deliberation of the committee, and I think ultimately we're going to get there, we're just asking 2 weeks for us to work through the details of that resolution that, again, will, I think, meet everybody's objective. So with that, I'll put forward a motion to, speaking with a parliamentarian, I believe the right motion is going to be to move to postpone for 2 weeks.
A motion to postpone 22R-3255. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Farokhi. Is there any discussion on the motion Mr. Bond.
I'll be honest, I don't know what 2 weeks will accomplish with this. I'm the author of ATAG 3. I was the author of ATAG 2. This paper was introduced, even though I appreciate people want to talk to the administration, but this commission is within the bailiwick of the City Council. It really has nothing to do with the administration at all. This is within our wheelhouse as a legislative creation for the purpose for which the commission was created a year ago. I guess the practice I've been accustomed to is that if people have an issue with your legislation, they don't go to the administration to talk about it. They come to you. And it has been almost 2 months. And I believe the chair of public safety talked to the administration. He said so in committee. The authors of the paper said they talked to the administration. But no one's talked to the author who created the commission for which they want to make the amendment. Or even had a policy discussion over whether or not why their legislation is unnecessary. So I would hope that we would not support the motion to hold because the administration has completely not been involved in this at all since its inception, its creation, and its implementation. And I would hope that with new council members coming on that we would not abandon our courtesies to one another. The reason why this paper, for those of you who may not know, is unnecessary is because part of what ATAG is about is making a review of the established practices and what's in the law already and what's been recommended by ATAG 2 as best practices for us to subsequently act upon. The reason why and I explained this in committee, the reason why the License Review Board is there as an ex officio member is not to make policy, is not to influence votes, but to be a resource for the members of ATAG to be there, present, and available for questioning, available to give information, etc., so that the members of ATAG can make their recommendations. And so there's, as it's conceived by the author and voted unanimously by the council last year, there really isn't a point to this legislation, aside from the ruffling of feathers of the author that 3 members of council would rather go to the administration and then talk to me when I've got offices right across from them. And we could have talked about this, away from this meeting. So I would speak against the motion to hold as it is unnecessary. It's not what was contemplated for ATAG 3. And of course, the authors of the paper, yet to this very moment, have not talked to the author of ATAG 3 about it at all. So I hope that we will respect our traditions and respect our courtesies between members and go ahead and file this paper as the Public Safety Committee voted. Thank you.
Mr. Wan, you wish to speak.
Thank you. Colleagues, I just want to clarify something. I agree with Mr. Bond's comments about the value of LRB members being on ATAG 3 as ex officio members. The reason why the administration needs to be involved with this is currently there is an LRB member that is in a mayor's appointed position. That's what's caused this challenge, and that's why I'm working with the administration. We do believe we have a path forward that allows the current member to stay and then move into an ex officio position, but we need 2 more weeks to resolve that. And I firmly believe we'll ultimately come back in 2 weeks and file this paper. Just need a little time, again, because it's a mayoral appointed position that we're talking about right here. So I do ask your support in the motion to postpone, and we can discuss the merits of the paper next cycle. Thank you.
Other discussion on the motion to postpone? Mr. Bond?
That's immaterial. The mayor gets an appointment to ATAG subsequent the same way he did in ATAG 2. It's not just an appointment to ATAG. The mayor has an appointment to ATAG that he can pick from over 500,000 citizens in Atlanta to fill that position. It's not germane. This legislation is about removing the members of the License Review Board from ATAG, even though they're ex officio members. So one has nothing to do with the other. So I would hope that we would support the motion to file. And again, I mean, it's great that you want to talk to the administration, but you know, there's an old song by the Emotions, you know, don't ask my neighbor, don't ask my friends you hang around, come to me. You'll find I love you. Come to me. Don't be afraid. You can come and talk to me about it, and then we can resolve the issue. So I hope that we will support the motion to file.
Thank you. Any other discussion of the motion to postpone? We'll move to a vote. It is a majority vote to postpone. An affirmative vote is supporting the motion to postpone. A negative vote is against the motion to postpone. Sorry. Councilmember Overstreet.
I mean, I'm still struggling with this paper. If we're going to file it in 2 weeks, why are we not filing it now? I'm only asking because I really don't get any of it, because no one's come to talk to me about it. I just want to make sure that, that we're making sense. That's all. I mean, what don't I get here? It's something that I'm not getting, for sure. So, I mean, if we're filing in 2 weeks, and that's what you said, right? Why aren't we filing today?
Mr. Wan?
Again, there is currently a member of ATAG 3 that was appointed by the previous administration that it was a member of the LRB, but is in a mayor's appointed position, not in the ex officio position that Mr. Bond said. So I'd like to, in one kind of coordinated motion, have the mayor make this administration's new appointment in the mayoral position, move the current LRB member that, if he's interested in moving down to an ex officio position, so everybody kind of gets to walk away from this in a positive light versus any sort of gap or timing. Again, I think we're going to get to the same place. I just need a little bit extra time. And I've been, again, in conversations with the administration asking for that same amount of time to do this.
Thank you.
Councilmember Boone, would you like to speak?
Yes. Question. Mr. Wan, why wasn't Mr. Bond, why haven't you all met with Mr. Bond regarding this?
So thank you for that question. So, Ms. Boone, this was taken into Committee for Public Safety and then tabled. And so, again, I was ready for it to just kind of sit there for a bit until I got all this worked out. But at the last Public Safety Committee meeting, Mr. Bond moved it off of held in order to move it forward. So I find myself in this position now, unready to move forward, and it wasn't my intent for it to be here before us today.
Point of order.
Point of order to the motion?
No, point of order about the proceedings, to correct a statement of fact by Mr. Wan, and for the record here at the council meeting. I got a point of order.
Let me let you do that in comments. I'll let you speak to that.
Point of orders are not debatable.
It is, but it has to be germane to the motion, to the proceedings here, not to...
This is germane to the proceedings.
All right, I'll let it go. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wan stated that I moved it and put it off of held. I didn't. It was on the agenda. It was held in committee, but the chair read it as an agenda item. So I didn't pull it off. So I reacted because the chair read it like it was already listed on the agenda to be enacted. It was in the held position.
Yeah, that's not my recollection.
It's on the tape. It's on the recording. So we can go back and review the recording, because I was surprised that you were reading it, because I knew that it was held.
Okay.
But again, still nobody talked to me about it.
Mr. Lewis.
So I'll just say this is not for immediate consideration because it went to a committee. It went to a committee, and it came out of committee with all the votes for it. And I just don't think this should be held waiting on the mayor's office, particularly when we've had opportunity to actually talk to the people who wrote it. And so I think that we should have had this discussion a few weeks ago, not today.
Other discussion on the motion to postpone? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Again, an affirmative vote is in favor of the motion to postpone. A negative vote is against the motion to postpone. Mr. Clerk, please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is now closed. Populating vote.
Councilman Waits, I don't believe it, unless there's a conflict, I don't believe an abstention is possible here. The motion on the table is the motion to postpone. An affirmative vote is in favor of postponing this for 2 weeks. A negative vote is against the motion to postpone this. Say that again, sorry. No? Ms. Waits is a nay.
Duly noted. Populating vote. Vote is now closed. 8 yeas, 7 nays.
8 yeas, 7 nays. The motion to postpone 22-R-3255 carries. Mr. Bond.
Yeah, I'd like to explain my vote. This was completely unnecessary. And if someone had talked to me, I just simply would have told you that if the previous mayor appointed someone from the License Review Board to sit on the ATAG, then that is not a justifiable appointment because the legislation says that all members of the License Review Board are ex officio members. So we could have resolved this months ago. And so that's how you resolve it. That is not a valid appointment that the previous mayor has made to this body. And so if we only have a conversation and talk to each other, then we can resolve these very simple issues and we can prevent these tempests and teapots.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Anyone else? Thank you. Chair Hillis, please proceed.
Yes, this completes our legislative items. I do have one announcement, and that the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee will hold a work session this Thursday, April 21st at 10 a.m. right here in City Council chambers to review and discuss the city's administrative interim process for addressing highly hazardous open vacant properties, and it will cover from the issuance of the first notice violation from code enforcement all the way to the demolition or clean and close order being executed. So again, that work session on code enforcement interims process will be this Thursday, April 21st at 10 a.m. right here in council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Hillis. We'll now move to the City Utilities Commission. Chair Shook.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Thank you. We'll now move to the report of the Community Development and Human Services Committee. Chair Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will ask my colleagues to turn to page 38 on your agenda. Mr. President, we have 5 items, but the first item is actually a public hearing item. If I may sound the legislation, and then we can navigate the parliamentary.
Please proceed.
All right, so the first item is Legislature Resolution 22-R-3253, which is a resolution by Council members Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, and Keisha Shawn Waits, as substituted by Community Development and Human Services Committee, amending the City of Atlanta's 2018 Annual Action Plan under its 2015 to 2019 Consolidated Plan for the purpose of reprogramming activities from the 2019 Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, otherwise known as HOPWA, funding to the 2018 HOPWA funding and drawing down the balance of the city's 2018 HOPWA funding from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and for other purposes. And Mr. President, I believe this item requires a public hearing, but to move into a public hearing, I believe that we need to move into the Committee of the Whole.
That is correct. I would entertain a motion to move into Committee of the Whole.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bond, seconded by Mr. Wan. Without objection, we can move into the Committee of the Whole via unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, please sound the count on moving to the Committee of the Whole via unanimous consent. Sorry, Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count.
Mr. President, the vote is 13 yeas, 0 nays.
13 yeas, 0 nays. We're now in Committee of the Whole. Chair Dozier, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. As I said before, this item requires a public hearing. I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Dozier has made a motion to open the public hearing. Mr. Wan has seconded. We can move into a public hearing via unanimous consent. Is there any objection to moving to a public hearing? Hearing none, Madam Deputy Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent to move into a public hearing.
Unanimous consent of members present, 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. We'll now open the public hearing.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Madam Deputy Clerk, I believe that we don't have anyone signed up for public comment. Thank you so much. With that, since we don't have anyone signed up for the public hearing, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
It's been a motion by Mr. Dozier and a second by Mr. Wan to close the public hearing. We can move out of the public hearing via unanimous consent. Is there any objection to moving out of the public hearing? Hearing none, please sound the count. Unanimous consent to move to close the public hearing.
Unanimous consent is 14 yeas, 0 nays.
14 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is now closed. Chair Dozier, please proceed. We are still in Committee of the Whole.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I would like to move out of make the motion to move out of the Committee of the Whole since we're done with the public hearing.
It's been a motion to move out of the Committee of the Whole. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Overstreet. We can move out of Committee of the Whole via unanimous consent. Is there any objection to moving out of Committee of the Whole? Hearing none, please sound the count on the unanimous consent to move out of Committee of the Whole.
Unanimous consent is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. We are now out of Committee of the Whole and back into regularly scheduled council meeting.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. It's just as the final action, I would like to make a motion to adopt this legislation.
There's a motion to adopt 22-R-3253 by Mr. Dozier. Is there a second? Oh. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Amos. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt 22-R-3253? Hearing none, we'll move to the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt 22-R-3253 passes. Chair Dozier, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. And gotta love parliamentary procedure. The next item, we're going to move on to ordinances. Item number 2, which is Ordinance 22-0-1063, which is related to CDP-21-055, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 257 Oak Cliff Road Northwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density residential land use designation, and for other purposes. This is an MPUH, Council District 10. The committee was favorable, 4 yeas and 1 nay and 1 abstention. I would like to make the motion to adopt.
The motion to adopt 22-0-1063. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt 22-0-1063 is passed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next item, number 3, is Ordinance 22-0-1064, which is related to CDP-21-057, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1411 South Gordon Street Southwest from the single-family residential land use designation to a low-density commercial land use designation and for other purposes. This is MPUT, City Council District 10. Now, the committee action for this was adverse, and I would like to follow through and make the motion to reverse for the body.
It's been a motion to reverse coming out of committee for 22-0-1064. Is there discussion on the motion? Don't believe it needs a second because it came out of the committee with a recommendation, but Mr. Faroki's seconded is noted. Any discussion on the motion Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to reverse 22-0-1064.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to reverse is adopted. Chair Dozier, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next item is number 4, which is Ordinance 22-0-1148. It's related to CDP-22-002, ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 2051, 2085, and 2095 Marietta Boulevard Northwest from the industrial land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for other purposes. And this is MPUD, City Council District 9, and the committee voted on this favorably, 5 yeas and 1 nay. I would like to make the motion to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt 22-0-1148. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to adopt.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Will everyone please vote? Fourteen yeas, 1 nay.
14 yeas, 1 nay. The motion to adopt passes. Chair Dozier, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My final item is number 5, which is 22-0-1241, an ordinance by council members Amir Faroki and Alex Wan to temporarily suspend sections 20-1008C and 20-1008D 3 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances only as they may be applied to short-term licenses or short-term rental operators that have not obtained a license, such that there shall be no authority to take administrative action or to impose any administrative penalties against short-term licensees or short-term rental operators that have not obtained a license, to declare that the suspension of sections 20-1008C and 20-1008D of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances provides herein shall only be in effect through June 1st, 2022, and thereafter the suspension of sections 20-1008C and 20-1008D of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances shall automatically end, and beginning June 2nd, 2022, shall have no legal force or effect and for other purposes. And this was favorable out of committee, 5 yeas, 1 nay. I will make the motion to adopt.
There's a motion to adopt 22-0-1241. Is there discussion on the motion to adopt? Mr. Lewis.
I just want to say I support this motion for the extension, and I stand with Amir Faruqi and making sure we support it for 6 weeks because it has taken us a long time to actually process it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to adopt 22-0-1241. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 13 yeas, 2 nays.
13 yeas, 2 nays. The motion to adopt passes. Chair Dozier, any other items?
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. We'll move to our final committee of the day, Transportation Committee, Chair Faruqi.
Thank you, Council President. There's no report from the Transportation Committee today, though I do want to make one quick announcement. Remind my colleagues, if they're interested, on Friday, April 29th, which is not this Friday, but the following Friday, we'll have a tour of the airport for those of those who want to go down to Hartsfield-Jackson and listen to our, yes, the 29th of April, 8:30 a.m., I think till about noon. So you should have an email in your inbox you can reply to RSVP.
Thank you. With that, we will proceed to papers for immediate consideration. I believe there is one paper. Mr. Dozier, I believe that's your paper for immediate consideration.
Yes, Mr. President. I do have a paper, Elms ID 29503, which is a resolution by Councilmember Jason Dozier, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the City of Atlanta's option to renew the intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, for the purposes of the City of Atlanta performing environmental reviews for housing authority projects and activities that receive federal financial assistance as required by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and for other purposes. And Mr. President, my understanding, which is why this legislation needs to be sent not only for immediate consideration but also post haste, is because this agreement, this intergovernmental agreement, actually expires tomorrow. So that's what is causing the hurry here. My apologies. Thank you so much. So to continue on, whereas the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, is a public housing agency authorized under Georgia law to undertake projects and activities for public housing related development and a provision of rental assistance for federal financial assistance. And whereas pursuant to 24 CFR 58.2A72B, where the recipient of federal financial assistance is a public housing agency. The City of Atlanta is authorized to assume environmental review obligations as the non-recipient responsible entity, and whereas pursuant to 19-R-3182, the city was authorized to enter into the intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, to perform environmental reviews for Atlanta housing projects and activities that receive federal financial assistance as required by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. And whereas the city entered into an IGA with Atlanta Housing on April 11, 2019 for a period of 3 years with an option to extend the agreement for 2 additional periods of 1 year each. And whereas the agreement is set to expire April 19, 2022, and whereas in accordance with Article 2, Section 2.02 of the intergovernmental agreement, the city has elected to exercise its option to renew the agreement for an additional 1 year period beginning April 20th, 2022 and ending April 19th, 2023. And whereas it is in the city's best interest to continue to perform environmental reviews for Atlanta housing projects and activities that receive federal financial assistance as required by HUD, and whereas Atlanta Housing will continue to reimburse the city for any reasonable costs incurred performing the environmental reviews for any Atlanta housing projects and programs in accordance with 24 CFR Part 58. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, that the mayor or his designee is authorized on behalf of the City of Atlanta to exercise the option to renew the intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, for the purpose of performing environmental reviews for AH projects and activities that receive federal financial assistance as required by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for a period of 1 year beginning April 20th, 2022 and ending April 19th, 2023. B, it further resolved that the city attorney is directed to prepare any necessary documentation to exercise the renewal option for execution by the mayor or his designee. Be it finally resolved that said renewal of the intergovernmental agreement will not become binding upon the city, and the city will incur no obligation nor liability under it until it has been duly executed by the city and delivered to the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to adopt Elms 29503 as read. Moved by Mr. Shook, seconded by Ms. Bakhtiari. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote on the motion to adopt Elms 29503. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dozier is aye.
Will everyone please vote? With the addition of Councilmember Dozier, the vote is 15 yeas, 0 nays.
15 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt Elms 29503 passes. It has also been noted to send to the mayor post haste. I believe that is also part of the motion. Thank you, Mr. Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there any other items for immediate consideration? Hearing none, we'll move to personal papers. There are a host of them. I see that my colleagues have been very busy during the time away. We will go in reverse dais order. Councilmember Waits, I don't believe you have any. Is that correct? What's that? Papers to introduce. Do you have any? Okay. Councilmember Waits. Oh, yes, sorry. Councilmember Waits, you're up first.
Greetings and good afternoon, colleagues. I rise today to introduce ELMS number 29498, an ordinance by Councilmember Keisha Waits. Sure. Thank you, sir. This ordinance is to amend 22-11 O-1070 and authorizing the mayor and on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a housing assistance payment contract with Southside Medical Center, Legacy Village, to amend the amount not to exceed $187,140 to an amount not to exceed $182,304 for purposes of providing housing and services to individuals and families with HIV/AIDS through the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS program sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing, and to ratify HOPWA housing and services rendered on behalf of the Southside Medical Center, Legacy Village, between July 1st and the execution date of the agreement, authorizing herein to be charged and to be paid from the accounts listed below and for other purposes. Thank you.
Items 29498 will be referred to the Community Development Committee. Thank you. Mr. Westmoreland, thank you for being ready.
You're welcome, Mr. President. I have 5 papers. I believe the first is OMS number 29505. An ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland supplementing the restated and amended master and bond ordinances of the City of Atlanta adopted on March 20, 2000, as previously amended and supplemented to provide for the establishment of the 2022 Airport Commercial Paper Program in connection with the issuance by the City of Atlanta of its third lien airport general revenue commercial paper notes and second lien airport passenger facility charge and third lien airport general revenue commercial paper notes from time to time so as to permit project encumbrance authority of up to an aggregate principal amount not to exceed blank outstanding at any time for the purpose of financing on an interim basis in whole or in part the costs of the planning, engineering, design, acquisition, construction, and equipping of certain improvements to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, to authorize the issuance by the City of Atlanta of its 1, third lien airport general revenue commercial paper notes Series M, Series N, and Series O, and 2, second lien airport passenger facility charge and third lien airport general revenue commercial paper notes Series M, Series N, Series O, and an aggregate principal amount not to exceed blank outstanding at any time, to designate the initial letter of credit providers with regard to the 2022 Airport Commercial Papers Program, to authorize the form of letter of credit and reimbursement agreements and related fee arrangements for the repayment of advances made on the city's behalf in regard to the Series M, Series N, Series O notes, to designate the initial property paper dealers and an issuing and paying agent, to approve forms of an issuing and paying agency agreement, commercial paper dealer agreements, and to certain other agreements in connection with the Series M, Series N, Series O notes, to authorize the preparation, distribution, and use of an offering memorandum in connection with the offering for sale of Series M, Series N, and Series O notes, to authorize the City of Atlanta general revenue bonds and the City of Atlanta passenger facility charge and subordinate lien general revenue bonds Series M, Series N, and Series O to be issued if and to the extent required to pay for the principal of and the accrued interests of the Series M, Series N, and Series O notes at maturity, all of the extent deemed to be in the best interest of the city, of the finance officer, and for other related purposes.
Items 29505 will be referred to Finance Exec.
Elms number 29549, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $5,000 from the Post 2 at Large Carry Forward account to the Shaking the Nations Foundation in honor of the 80th birthday of Reverend Dr. Gerald Durley and for other purposes.
Elms 29549 will be referred to Finance Exec.
Elms number 29551, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $5,000 from the Post 2 at Large Carry Forward account to the Atlanta Bicycle Coalition and for other purposes.
Elms 29551 will be referred to Finance Exec.
29552, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $2,000 from the Post 2 at Large Carry Forward account to the Midtown Neighbors Association and for other purposes.
Elms 29552 will be referred to Finance Exec.
29554, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $1,000 from the Post 2 at Large Carry Forward account to Hands on Atlanta and for other purposes.
Elms 29554 will be referred to Finance Exec.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. President. First paper, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond. An ordinance supplementing the reinstated and amended Master Bond Ordinance of the City of Atlanta, adopted in March 20, 2000, as previously amended and supplemented, providing for the issuance of City of Atlanta of its airport general revenue bonds and airport passenger facility charge and subordinate lien general revenue bonds in the combined aggregate and principal amount not to exceed $700 billion, comprised of the City of Atlanta Airport General Revenue Bonds, issue Series 2022A, the Series 2022A bonds, City of Atlanta Airport General Revenue Bonds, Series 2022B, the Series 2022B bonds, City of Atlanta Airport Passenger Facility Charge and Subordinate Lien General Revenue Bonds, Series 2022C, the Series 22C bonds, and the City of Atlanta Airport Passenger Facility Charge and Subordinate and General Revenue Bonds, Series 22D, the Series 22D A bonds and the Series 22B bonds and the Series 22C bonds, the Series 2022 bonds, providing the funds for the purpose and, among other things, financing or refinancing the whole or part the cost of the planning, engineering, design, equipment, acquisition, and construction of certain improvements to the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, providing for a reasonably required debt service reserve, providing for the forms of the authority and the execution of said Series 2022 bonds, providing for the rights and holders of the Series 22 bonds, authorizing and approving the preparation, use, and distribution of preliminary official statement, and with the offer and sale of said Series 2022 bonds, granting the chief officer of the City of Atlanta or airport manager the authority to deem final and preliminary official settlement for the purpose of the Securities and Exchange Commission Rule 5C2-12, granting the chief officer of the chief finance officer of the City of Atlanta or airport manager the authority to approve and execute the final official statement, authorizing the execution of continuing disclosure statements, a bond purchase agreement, and certain other agreements, and in connection with the Series 2022 bonds, and providing for the incidental action, authorizing the negotiation and purpose of municipal bonds, insurance, and for the selection of a bond issuer with respect to all other determinant factors to be in the best interest of the city, designating a paying agent for the bond registrar, providing for the severability, authorizing certain officials and employees of the City of Atlanta to take all actions required in connection with the issuance of said Series 2022 bonds, providing for certain other details in respect thereunto, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Elms 29507 will be referred to Finance Exec.
There's more. Thank you. Elms number 29540, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond to accept the preliminary renderings, design, and cost estimates for the Sons of Atlanta Vietnam War Memorial in honor of the 128 Atlantans who perished in the conflict and for other purposes.
Mr. Bond, I think that's 29563. I believe that's what was noted by the clerk.
No, I've got 29540. Yep. No, we're not doing a tree protection. Yeah, the tree protection shouldn't be on there. Yeah. So what's the number? $29560, Vietnam veterans.
The number is 29540.
40. All right.
29540 will be referred to the CDHS committee.
I got Elms number 29559, an ordinance by council members Michael Julian Bond, Byron D. Amos, Dustin Hillis, Matt Westmoreland, Antonio Lewis, Keisha Sean Waits, Jason Winston, and Jason Dozier, authorizing the payment in the amount not to exceed blank $1,000 and 0 cents from various accounts to the City of Atlanta Office of Cultural Affairs to pay for the expenses relating to the 2022 Neighborhood Jazz Festival events and for other purposes.
Elms 29559 will be referred to Finance Exec.
Elms number 29541, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, an ordinance requesting the Department of Finance to partner with MARTA, the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, to conduct an analysis to determine the feasibility of allowing Atlanta residents access to fare-free public transit within the City of Atlanta limits. Well, that shouldn't be that. So within the MARTA system and for other purposes.
Elms 29541 will be jointly referred to Transportation and the Finance Exec Committees. Any other items, Mr. Bond? Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
I'm not new to this. That's right.
Thank you, President Shipman, for keeping us on our toes. I didn't know it was my time. I would like to read Elms 29514, a resolution by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, a resolution requesting WorldStar Health System Incorporation to reconsider closing Atlanta Medical Center South and for other purposes.
Elms 29514 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Thank you. Elms 29547, an ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis to amend Chapter 150 of the Atlanta City Code of Ordinance to update the regulations related to shareable dockless mobility devices to extend existing shareable dockless mobility device annual permits and for other purposes.
Elms 29547 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
And lastly, Elms 29512, an ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or a designee to install a traffic signal at the end of Arthur B. Lankford Parkway and Lakewood Avenue for other purposes.
Elms 29512 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Thank you. Councilmember Overstreet.
Okay, I have two papers. The first one is Elms number 29548, a resolution by council members Marcy Collier Overstreet and Andrea L. Boone, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute amendment number 1 to Cooperative Purchasing Agreement CP-S-121-0242 Everbridge Mass Notification and Emergency Alert System with Everbridge Incorporated to add the Atlanta City Council as an authorized user and to add additional funding to an amount not to exceed blank dollars and 0 cents blank dollars. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Elms 29548 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Okay, Elms number 29493, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet, an ordinance authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2022 CARES Act 2508 fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations an amount not to exceed $2,677,000, $358.00. Awarded to the city pursuant to a grant from the state of Georgia for the Georgia Public Safety Officials and First Responders Supplemental Grant, the total of which shall be utilized to pay the public safety officers and first responders who served the city of Atlanta during the COVID-19 pandemic and for other purposes.
Elms 29493 will be referred to the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 items. First items, Elms number ID number 29311, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone, a resolution to urge the City of Atlanta to prioritize and execute on the recommendations of the Age-Friendly Atlanta Action Plan and for other purposes.
Elms 29311 will be referred to Community Development Committee.
Elms number 29511, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone, an ordinance authorizing the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install no parking signs from LeConte Highway Southwest to Clement Drive Southwest and for other purposes.
Elms 29511 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms number 29510, Elms number 29510, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea Boone, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Cativo Drive Southwest and Peyton Road Southwest an always stop controlled intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms 29510 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hillis.
First paper is Elms 29486, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis, and charter amendment to amend the charter of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, section listed, adopted under, and by virtue of the authority of the Municipal Home Rule Act of 1965, OCGA, section listed as amended by amending section 1-102 of Article 1 and section 6-101 of Article 6, both of Part 1, Subpart A, to amend the authority of the city to charge and collect taxes and assessments for sanitary and solid waste disposal services, and to establish the collection rates, fees, and charges for the same, to authorize the adoption of an administrative procedure for the resolution of disputes regarding the basis of a sanitary and solid waste tax or assessment against a property and for other purposes.
Elms 29486 will be referred to the City Utilities Committee.
Elms 29488, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis to amend Chapter 130 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to adjust the taxes, assessments, service fees, and charges for solid waste services specified therein, including funding street-based sanitary services and general common good sanitary services through the City of Atlanta General Fund, to formalize the administrative hearing procedure for the resolution of disputes, to update certain other provisions of Chapter 130 of the Code and for other purposes.
Elms 29488 will be referred to the City Utilities Committee.
Elms ID 29491, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis to amend Chapter 130 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to adjust the taxes, assessment, service fees, and charges for solid waste services specified therein, including the establishment of a sanitary assessment for street-related sanitary services and general common good-related sanitary services based on taxable property value, to formalize the administrative hearing procedure for the resolution of disputes, to update certain other provisions of Chapter 130 of the Code, and for other purposes.
Elms 29491 will be referred to the City Utilities Committee.
Elms 29492, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis to amend Chapter 130 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to adjust the taxes, assessment, service fees, and charges for solid waste services specified therein, including solid waste collection and recycling charges, charges for street-related sanitary services based on equivalent trip generation, charges for general good-related sanitary services based on a property's under-roof square footage, to formalize the administrative hearing procedure for the resolution of disputes, to update certain other provisions of Chapter 130 of the Code, and for other purposes.
Elms 29492 will be referred to the City Utilities Committee.
Elms 29529, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis to waive Section 15-07.006 of the Land Subdivision Ordinance of the City of Atlanta for the purposes of facilitating an acknowledgement of 1102 Mantissa Street Northwest as two separate nonconforming legal lots substantially consistent with the historic configuration and prevailing plat pattern, and for other purposes.
Elms 29529 will be referred to the Zoning Committee.
Elms 29528, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersections of Maldo Drive Northwest and Cardo Drive Northwest and Maldo Drive Northwest and Revere Drive Northwest and the Lincoln Homes neighborhood always stop-controlled intersections, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections, and for other purposes.
Elms 29528 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms 29538, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersections of Hollywood Road Northwest and Main Street Northwest in the Riverside neighborhood and Hollywood Road Northwest and Arno Drive in the Scotts Crossing neighborhood always stop-controlled intersections, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections, and for other purposes.
Elms 29538 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms 29537, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Hall Street Northwest, Ada Avenue Northwest, and Lookout Street Northwest in the Almond Park neighborhood an always stop-controlled intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection, and for other purposes.
Elms 29537 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms 29532, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Boulder Road Northwest and Christopher's Walk Northwest in the Hanover West neighborhood an always stop-controlled intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection, and for other purposes.
Elms 29532 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
And finally, 29536, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Collier Road Northwest and Hills Place Northwest in the Underwood Hills neighborhood an always stop-controlled intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection, and for other purposes.
Elms 29536 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
These are my papers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Norwood did not have any papers today. Councilmember Shook, I don't believe you have any papers today, so we'll go to Councilmember Juan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Elms ID number 29550, a resolution by Councilmember Alex Juan authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of blank dollars, all funds to be charged to and paid from fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed, and for other purposes.
Elms 29550 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee. Thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
I'm a fast reader. Calm down, guys. Okay. Here we go. Would you please get this over? All right. First piece of legislation, Elms number 29545, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to amend Chapter 114, Article, I can't read Roman numerals, Division 3, Section 114-550 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to provide that where the Civil Service Board appeal has not been commenced within 18 months after receipt of the notice of appeal, the adverse action which is the subject of the appeal, shall be dismissed without prejudice, and the employee shall thereafter and be entitled to back pay and other relief afforded by Section 114-553C of the City Code in order to provide an incentive to eliminate undue delay in providing employees with their Civil Service Board hearings, to provide that when an adverse action is dismissed in accordance with this amendment, the City of Atlanta may reimpose the adverse action so dismissed within 6 months of the date of dismissal pursuant to the procedures set forth in Article Division 3 of Chapter 114 of the City Code and for other purposes.
Elms 29545 will be referred to Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID number 29339, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property located at 2234 DeKalb Drive, Decatur, Georgia 30032, into the corporate limits of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, pursuant to the 100% method to extend the boundaries of the Atlanta Independent School System, to notify the Department of Community Affairs of the State of Georgia of such annexation and for other purposes.
Elms 29339 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID number 29340, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to zone property located at 2234 DeKalb Drive, Atlanta, Georgia 30032, to the R4 single-family residential zoning district and for other purposes.
Elms 29340 will be referred to the Zoning Committee and the ZRB.
Elms ID number 29341, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to amend the land use element of the 2016 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate property at 2234 DeKalb Drive, Atlanta, Georgia 30032 to the single-family residential land use designation and for other purposes.
Elms 29341 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Elms ID number 29342, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property located at 1162 Oakfield Drive Southeast, 1165 Oakfield Drive Southeast, 1166 Oakfield Drive Southeast, and 1178 Oakfield Drive Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia 30316, into the corporate limits of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, pursuant to the 100% method to extend the boundaries of the Atlanta Independent School System, to notify the Department of Community Affairs of the State of Georgia of such annexation and for other purposes.
Elms 29342 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID number 29343, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to zone property located at 1162 Oakfield Drive Southeast, 1165 Oakfield Drive Southeast, 1166 Oakfield Drive Southeast, and 1178 Oakfield Drive Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia 30316 to the R4 single-family residential zoning district and for other purposes.
Elms 29343 will be referred to the Zoning Committee and the ZRB.
Elms ID number 29344, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to amend the land use element of the 2016 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate property at 1162 Oakfield Drive Southeast, 1165 Oakfield Drive Southeast, and 1166 Oakfield Drive Southeast, and 1178 Oakfield Drive Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia 30316 to the single-family residential land use designation and for other purposes.
Elms 29344 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Elms ID number 29370, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property located at 2004 Swayze Drive, Decatur, Georgia 30032 into the corporate limits of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, pursuant to the 100% method to extend the boundaries of the Atlanta Independent School System, to notify the Department of Community Affairs of the State of Georgia of such annexation and for other purposes.
Elms 29370 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID number 29371, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to zone property located at 2004 Swayze Drive, Decatur, Georgia 30032 to the R4 single-family residential zoning district and for other purposes.
Elms 29371 will be referred to the Zoning Committee and the ZRB.
Elms ID number 29372, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance to amend the land use element of the 2016 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to designate property at 2004 Swayze Drive, Decatur, Georgia, to the single-family residential land use designation and for other purposes.
Elms 29372 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Elms ID number 29499, a resolution by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Finance, Department of Watershed Management, Department of Aviation, and Department of Public Works to enter into cooperative purchasing agreement CP-S-12209291 ADP implementation and integration with automatic data processing pursuant to Section 15 of the Atlanta City Procurement Code for Human Capital Management Systems and Managed Business Solutions Services effective May 16, 2022 through April 30, 2024 for a term of 23 months and 14 days with up to 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $317,860.32. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Elms 29499 will be referred to the Finance Exec Committee.
Elms ID number 29522, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance authorizing the mayor as designee to make the intersections of Bouldercrest Drive Southeast and Winfield Avenue Southeast, Bouldercrest Drive Southeast, and Black Oak Drive Southeast, and always stop controlled intersections to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes.
Elms 29522 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms number 29523, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Finley Street and Northeast and Whiteford Avenue Northeast and always stop controlled intersection to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms 29523 will refer to the Transportation Committee.
Elms number 29524, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Fowler Street Northeast and Norwood Avenue Northeast and always stop controlled intersection to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes.
Elms 29524 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms number 29525, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming service devices on Howard Street Northeast and for other purposes.
Elms 29525 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms ID number 29526, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Wiley Street Southeast and Pearl Street Southeast an always stop controlled intersection to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms 29526 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms number 29527, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Ridgecrest Road Northeast and McClendon Avenue Northeast an always stop controlled intersection to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms 29527 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
And I'm finally done.
Thank you. Mr. Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say I really appreciate that Councilmember Bakhtiari had 17 items because my 8 items are going to go quickly. Thank you. So the first item that I have is Elms ID 29496, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into a lease amendment on behalf of the City of Atlanta with the Atlanta Development Authority doing business as Invest Atlanta, not to exclude from premises leased to the city under the existing Atlanta Beltline lease, that portion of the Atlanta Beltline to be dedicated to the Beltline Marketplace program to be implemented and administered by Invest Atlanta and for other purposes.
Elms 29496 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Next item is Elms number 29558, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Rosser Street Southwest as specified and approved by the Atlanta Department of Transportation and for other purposes.
Elms 29558 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Next item is Elms ID number 29555, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Anchor Terrace, Cahaba Drive, and Orlando Street Southwest as specified and approved by the Atlanta Department of Transportation and for other purposes.
Elms 29555 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Next item is Elms number 29556, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Chappelle Road Southwest as specified and approved by the Atlanta Department of Transportation and for other purposes.
Elms 29556 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Next item is Elms number 29557, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to make always stop control intersections at Formwalt Street and Crumley Street Southwest to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes.
Elms 29557 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
The next item is Elms number 29560, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to make all-way stop control intersections at Allegheny Street and Rochelle Drive Southwest and Rochelle Drive and Beecher Street Southwest, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersections and for other purposes.
Elms 29560 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
The next item is Elms number 29561, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Walnut Street and Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Southwest an all-way stop control intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms 29561 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
And my final item is Elms ID number 29562, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Elizabeth Avenue, Westmont Road, West Ridge Road, and Lockwood Road Southwest, as specified and approved by the Atlanta Department of Transportation and for other purposes.
Elms 29562 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
That concludes my legislative items.
Thank you. Next up, Ms. Ramos.
There we go. First one is AMS number ID 29502, a resolution by Councilmember Byron Amos, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency, aka WorkSource Atlanta, to enter into a contractual agreement for FC-RFP-S 1220123 with Arbor ENT LLC, doing business as Equus Workforce Solutions, for a term of 1 year with 2 one-year extensions to renew in an amount not to exceed $750,000.00 for the purposes of providing workforce service delivery for workforce innovation and opportunity at youth programs and services. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Elms 29502 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
AMS ID number 29500, a resolution by Councilmember Byron Amos, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency, aka WorkSource Atlanta, to enter into a contractual agreement for FC-RFP-S 1220130 with Arbor ENT LLC, doing business as Equus Workforce Solutions, for a term of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew in an amount not to exceed $1,454,000.00 for purpose of providing workforce services, delivering workforce innovation and opportunity at adult and dislocated worker programs. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Elms 29500 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
AMS number ID 29516, a resolution by Councilmember Byron Amos, a resolution to establish the District 3 Advisory Council for the purpose of promoting community outreach and engagement so as to facilitate and enhance collaborative dialogue within the district and for other purposes.
Elms 29516 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
AMS ID 29480, a resolution by Councilmember Byron Amos, a resolution urging the Commissioner of Department of City Planning to work with the leadership of the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, APAB, to develop a best practices set of guidelines for the City of Atlanta 25 neighborhood planning units, NPUs, that will serve to enhance, encourage, and expand community participation in the NPU system and for other purposes.
Elms 29480 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
And the last one, Mr. President, AMS ID number 29515, a resolution by Councilmember Byron Amos, a resolution to establish a short-term rental commission to provide adequate community outreach and educational material to promote awareness of the City of Atlanta short-term rental policy, the application process, and the current law governing short-term rental properties in the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
Elms 29515 will be referred to the Community Development Committee. All right, next up, Mr. Faruqi.
Elms number 29521, an ordinance by council members Amir Faruqi, Jason Winston, Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, and Matt Westmoreland, launching the next era of Atlanta Streets Alive and authorizing the temporary closure of Peachtree Street between Mitchell Street and 14th Street one Sunday per month for 12 months from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. beginning on January 15th, 2023, and for other purposes.
Elms 29521 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. Thank you. Mr. Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Elms 29546, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Winston, an ordinance to waive Atlanta City Code Section 15-08.005 and any other applicable provisions of the subdivision ordinance of the City of Atlanta for the purpose of allowing the city to recognize 1006 Dunning Street Southeast as a legal non-conforming lot of record, and to waive Atlanta City Code Section 16-07.007 and any other applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance of the City of Atlanta for the purpose of allowing the Department of City Planning to recognize a new residential development at 1006 Dunning Street Southeast and for other purposes.
Elms 25946 will be referred to the Zoning Committee.
Thank you. Elms 29513, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Winston, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersections of Custer Avenue Southeast and Funston Street Southeast, Custer Avenue and Woodland Avenue section Southeast, and always stop control intersection, to authorize the mayor, the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Elms 29513 will be referred to the Transportation Committee.
Elms 29302, a resolution by Councilmember Jason Winston, a resolution authorizing the Atlanta Fulton County Recreation Authority on behalf of the Stadium Neighborhoods Community Trust Fund Committee to award grants in a total amount not to exceed $1,219,494 to fund various community service projects to benefit the Atlanta neighborhoods of Mechanicsville, Peoplestown, Pittsburgh, Summerhill, and portion of Grant Park, and for other purposes.
Elms 29302 will be referred to the Community Development Committee.
Elms 29495, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Winston, an ordinance authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta pursuant to Section 6-306 of the Atlanta Charter in a total amount not to exceed $9,100,000 and 0 cents in order to support the Community Foundation's actions to facilitate the relocation of the residents of Forest Cove, and authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Community Foundation, which shall detail the actions of the Community Foundation to facilitate relocation activities to support residents of the Forest Cove property in the Southeast Atlanta community of Thomasville, to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to transfer the necessary funds and to make all payments from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Elms 29495 will be referred to the Community Development Committee. Are there any other papers for introduction today? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move to general remarks. Councilmember Waits.
Thank you so much. I wanted to take this opportunity. I know that the proclamation roster was full, so I didn't have the opportunity to ask them to join us this morning. But I wanted to recognize the City of Atlanta E91 communications team. There was a resolution that was written and provided to them on Friday for their awards dinner, and we'd love to bring them in later in the month. But whereas the City of Atlanta recognizes the E911 team for National Public Service Telecommunicators Week, also there were 3 I think, power outages at the facilities, and they were still able to coordinate efforts to ensure the city's safety with very limited delays given the circumstances. So we just simply wanted to take a moment to recognize the City of Atlanta E911 team, as well as Fulton County, for their collaboration and for the services they provide us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Dozier.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. The first thing I just want to just give a shout out to our District 4 constituents who came out to our very first District 4 town hall last Thursday. We had about 40 participants in person, another 45 or 50 participants virtually, so we did it hybrid. We got through it, and it's going to be the first of many town hall events. Once a quarter is what we're shooting for, but just really want to appreciate and share my appreciation of everyone who participated in that event. The next thing, just wanted to let the public know, District 4 is going to be working with Slutty Vegan for a hiring event on Wednesday, April 27th, so next Wednesday. We're going to be doing a hiring event over at West Care, which is off of Pryor Road, or 827 Pryor Street specifically is the address, and that's going to be from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And lastly, I just want to make sure that this body acknowledges the recent passing of Mr. Arthur Eversole, also known by the public as Archie Eversole. Rarely do we have someone who is so beloved, not only from an arts and entertainment standpoint, but also a sports standpoint, and to have so many people in our community mourn his passing so publicly. I wanted to make sure that our body acknowledges that as well. And so he will be missed by several members of this body, as well as several of our city's residents, and just wanted to I know this is probably one of the more high-profile victimizations of gun violence that we've had in this city as well. So I just want to acknowledge his passing, and I know that's going to help our city know how can we move forward to prevent things like this from happening going forward. So just want to acknowledge that and just thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Wan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just want to get on the mic and share two very exciting pieces of information with everybody. Number one, if you were not aware, over recess, our colleague Liliana Bakhtiari got engaged. So congratulations to her. And in the category of lightning does strike twice, I thought he was going to talk about this. No, I didn't get engaged. Jason Dozier's wife, Claire Dozier, is going to be on Jeopardy this evening at 7:30. So if you Friday at 7:30. And so if you want details on the viewing party, talk to Jason. But congratulations on both.
And just a note for some of you who may not know, Mr. Dozier was also on Jeopardy, so this is quite a family affair. Dozier double. Mr. Lewis.
I just want to make sure I put out the announcement for the District 12 Quarterly Town Hall with council. It will be held at Roselle Fan Recreation Center, 6:30 p.m. until 8:30 p.m., April 28th, 2022. We'll talk all things District 12. Look forward to seeing folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if it was mentioned earlier because I was tardy today, but just wanted to lift my voice in recognition of Dr. Thomas Cole, the former president of Clark Atlanta University, who passed away, and of course his wife, Brenda Cole, Judge Cole, who is a stalwart judge and community leader in her own right. Got to work with Dr. Cole on many projects when I was in District 3, helping them expand the campus along what was the previously named Atlanta Development Authority to build and expand many of the residences there at Clark Atlanta University through the TAD program. And he was a great leader, and he will certainly be missed. Also, I wanted to mention Dr. Doris Derby, who also was a great professor, educator, photographer. She was honored by the city through cystography and through the Women of the Civil Rights Movement from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Many of the famous photos that you might have seen particularly around the Birmingham girls and other demonstrations involving SNCC. They were her photographs. She had a couple of books, and of course she had exhibits that traveled throughout the South. I think she has one now at the University of Mississippi that's currently on display. And of course she passed away and was funeralized over at Providence. She was a great woman, great leader. When I took classes at Georgia State, she helped us found the NAACP chapter there when I was a student. She just a tremendous person, a surrogate mother to me, and a mentor to many people throughout the South, throughout the country, and in the civil rights movement. And on Wednesday, our continuing saga at HelloFresh will continue over at the DeKalb Atlanta Seniors Center at 25 Warren Street. I'll be partnering with DeKalb County Commissioner Larry Johnson. It'll be at 3 p.m. as usual. And of course, there is no prerequisite to receive this benefit. Along with the Commissioner and our regular partners, Second Helping Atlanta, Pratt Industry, and of course HelloFresh itself, we distribute about 8,000 meals a week. And as inflation increases, and we heard much from our citizens today about how challenging it is in the community for families within our city and in our jurisdiction. So that's this Wednesday, 3 p.m. At the DeKalb Atlanta Senior Center at 25 Warren Street. And I want to thank Councilwoman Boone for recognizing my birthday and the birthday of Antonio Lewis. You know, Aries ruled the world without a doubt. And the Michael Julian Bondathon is continuing until April the 30th. So gifts, drinks, libations, nectar, ambrosia is still being accepted on our 30-day tour. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general remarks? If none, please sound the adjournment roll call.
We're going to try to do some more for the month.
Yes, sir. Council President Doug Shipman.
Present.
Council members Michael Julian Bond.
Here.
Matt Westmoreland. Keisha Shawn Waits. Jason H. Winston.
Here.
Amir Faroki. Here. Byron Amos. Here. Jason Dozier. Liliana Bakhtiari. Here. Alex Wan. Howard Shook. Mary Norwood. Dustin Hillis. Andrea L. Boone. Marcy Collier Overstreet. Antonio Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.